fans, I've been trying to explain to some people who are not familiar with it, and he was never the superstar, but he was a superstar person, and he was the type of player and character that if you're going to be successful as a team, you need him.
The funeral wake set to take place this afternoon before a mass on Saturday in the town where less than 2 weeks ago Jota got married. Andy Robertson says Jota was a man bursting with love, writing, "I can't believe we're saying goodbye. It's too soon and it hurts so much. But thank you for being in my life, mate, and for making it better." It's not just his teammates he built a strong relationship with, it was the fans too. They're still turning up in huge numbers to lay flowers, scarves and letters to their number 20. Former Liverpool striker Neil Mellor said the strength of feeling between Jota and the fans was clear to see.
I think he had a great connection with the fans as well. The bond he had a really popular song that the fans absolutely love singing, and no doubt that's going to take a new meaning to it for next season. I think it'll be a lot more emotional to hear the words sang, but he was really well liked, and the fans liked that work ethic, the fact that he worked so hard.
You can read all the tributes pouring in for Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva on our live blog at talksport.com. Heading over to the Lions tour down under now, and there's been a mixed reaction to head coach Andy Farrell calling up his son Owen to replace the injured Elliot Daly. But despite not playing Test rugby in 2 years, former Scotland international and his old Saracens teammate Jim Hamilton told us it's a no-brainer to call Faz back up.
It's been a tough, humbling 12, 18 months for Owen, and from a kind of personal point of view, but also like a fan's point of view of the Lions, you've got a proven performer, you've got a warrior, and you've got a guy that's really hungry, and he's a quality operator, as we know.
Very good morning to you. You're listening to Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and the former Watford captain Troy Deeney. We're live on talkSPORT this morning. So the tributes continue to pour in following the devastating news that reached us yesterday with Liverpool forward Diogo Jota losing his life in a car accident in Spain at the age of 28. His brother Andre was also in the car and lost his life in the crash. We'll continue to reflect on his life this morning. Also today, does the signing of Joao Pedro put Chelsea in the title race for next season? Jack Draper's Wimbledon exploits come to an end. And is there a bigger learning curve in football than your first managerial job? You're listening to White and Jordan with Sam Matterface, Troy Deeney and Alex Crook, and we're live this morning on talkSPORT. Yeah, very good morning to you wherever you are this morning. I'm in Switzerland ahead of Germany-Poland tonight in the Women's European Championships. It's going to be a very different morning this morning than the usual banter that flies around between us three. Crook and I spoke yesterday a little bit. I think we exchanged a few messages with Crookie coming back from his holiday, me out here in Switzerland, and I was talking to Jim and to Stuart Pearce after their show yesterday. I thought the way they handled the tragic event yesterday was magnificent. I thought they were brilliant, and I thought they coped with it as well as anyone could. We had a variety of voices on the show yesterday talking about Diogo Jota and giving us a little bit more of an indication about what he was like as a man as well as a footballer. And here is a flavour of some of those tributes.
Jota puts them in front. It's the first goal of the Arne Slot era.
Heartbreaking. I was shocked, like all of us.
You do become attached to players. You do feel like, you know, they're part of you.
Everyone knows what it's like to lose someone. It feels like we've lost one of our own.
These players mean something to people, and they become icons. And to see his life cut so short is just horrible.
One of the reasons why Liverpool wanted to bring him from Wolves, because they knew he was a good character.
Surely now Wolverhampton Wanderers are going through to the semi-final. A counter-attacking goal from Diogo Jota.
Without a doubt, that's my greatest memory, and he was the one who gave me that memory. So
he was one of the greatest players that I've seen play for Wolves.
I had the pleasure a few times being around the training ground, talking to him, listening about his career, how he was, and he's just really, really humble. The Wolves fans loved him.
Someone I had the opportunity of meeting twice, so kind, had time for everyone. He was a really good human being.
The public, of the Prime Minister, everybody in Portugal is really, really shocked and devastated for what had happened.
His song was one of the ones that was sung the loudest and the longest every week on the cop.
You know, there'll come a time when Liverpool return to Anfield and the fans sing You'll Never Walk Alone, and they will sing it for him.
He was our number 20, and we won our 20th league title this year. It's been mentioned, but I implore the club to retire that shirt. I think it'd be the right thing to do, and I'm sure the club will do it.
You'll never walk alone. You're always in our hearts. Never forget you. Never forget.
Well, just some of the tributes that sort of reflected on talkSPORT yesterday, and it was a very, very sad day. And I spoke to sort of Stuart Pearce yesterday, and I said, look, I didn't know Diogo Jota or his brother Andre, but I felt stunned. I felt bolted backwards yesterday by the suddenness of the loss, really. How his family must be feeling, I mean, you can't even for 1 minute imagine. And our thoughts continue to be with them. I know that there is a day of mourning today and a memorial that is planned in Gondomar, and the funeral tomorrow in Porto. Gents, I know you're back in London. You've had a chance to reflect on it as well. But Troy, in particular, being in a dressing room, befalling such a tragedy, what sort of impact will that have, do you think?
It'd be huge, not only in the Liverpool dressing room, but having spoken to a few lads yesterday, not only lads who have played with him, just lads in general. People start sending out messages just want you to know, like, I appreciate you, because it's hit home to a point that a young man at 28 years old, as fit as a fiddle, has unfortunately lost his life. And I just think it makes all of us think and just take stock of where we're at and appreciate it. But I was just talking to Crookie upstairs. One of the few people that, when you've played against him and met him, and as I've been fortunate enough to, every single time it was a joy. It was a joy to speak to him. It was a joy to be around him, whether they won, whether they lost, whether he drew. He was always just a lovely, inspiring character. And I just said, the only bit I really hate about all this is that we have to lose somebody to talk about how good they are as a human being, because a lot of our job is to talk about the footballer as opposed to the person.
Crook?
Yeah, I echo those sentiments, really. Like you, Sam, I probably only met Diogo on a couple of occasions after he played in games and made a significant contribution. But you speak to people who've played with him, you speak to people who've played against him, and the message is the same. A tremendous footballer, an old-school poacher in some ways, but also a very selfless team player. Obviously did a lot of his best work off the bench and scored some big goals over the course of his Liverpool career. But the person he is as well, not just loved by a couple of his teammates, but seemingly universally loved by all. And this is going to be a very difficult situation and a harrowing situation for everybody at Liverpool in particular, and the Portuguese national team as well, to come to terms with. Obviously Liverpool, unfortunately, a club that have experienced a lot of tragedy in the past, and we know their fans will come together and the city will rally around. I think what's been really encouraging, football is a very tribal sport, but you see the tributes that have been paid by Liverpool's biggest rivals, the likes of Manchester United and Manchester City on social media, players from those clubs. There was an Everton fan I saw laying flowers outside Anfield. Football can be very divisive at times, but in times like this, it can also be very uniting. And I think we're seeing that, and hopefully that will give Diogo Jota's family and friends in time some positives to come through what is just an unbearable situation. I think even if you don't know Diogo, it's impossible not to be affected by this. When you see the images of his wedding only last week, the video, how happy he was to have married his childhood sweetheart, their 3 young children being there, and obviously we've all got kids. I think that hits home as well. My kids are away at the moment, and I had to message their mum yesterday and say, look, can you give the kids a hug from me? Because I think when you're a dad yourself, it really does hit home just how harrowing this is.
So many tributes yesterday, especially from his teammates. Arne Slot talking about him as a character and what he was like as part of the squad. Captain Virgil van Dijk talking about it being a privilege to be in a dressing room with him. I read the whole sort of page of tribute that Andy Robertson put on his social media last night, and I thought that was the one that really sort of grabbed me. They were obviously really close, and he said he attended his wedding and he was there on that day, and he was bursting with love for his wife and his family just 9 and 10 days ago. And he called him the most British foreign player ever. That they enjoyed going to the darts together. They went to Cheltenham together. That was a highlight of their whole season, going and experiencing those things. And I don't know, Troy, but there's been lots of tragedies that have happened in football, and we all understand that it affects everybody in a completely different way. But I can't even begin to think what it must feel like to be in that Liverpool dressing room as they go back for pre-season training this week, having won the league, having gone through the tragedy and the disruption of the huge outpouring of emotion that surrounded the big trophy parade, and then the stuff that happened there, and then to go through this is so personal. It's a seat missing and a seat empty in your dressing room. Someone sitting next to you that is no longer there. There's an empty space in that squad list that wasn't there before. It seems so cruel, doesn't it? And that is the thing that I think has rocked so many people to its core. Because look, as I said before, we're not people who know him. You've played against him. You know what it was like to be even closer to him than we were. You were privileged to be able to be on the same pitch as him. But for those people in that dressing room, for people who work in that club, for his family, for his friends, this is devastating. This is the definition of the word devastating, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I had an issue like this at Walsall many years ago. We lost 2 players. One to a battle with cancer, a young man, and one of them died on the training pitch. So and the way I can describe it is when we was working together, then you walk in the next day and that person's clothes are still out because the habit is they've put the clothes out, and then it takes everyone a little while to be like, oh my God, we've lost that person. So it'll affect the guys and the people that work there in so many different ways at different times. It won't be a case of like the first day it'll be okay. It'll be over the course of the weeks and months and little things that Diogo would have done around the place that will just make people go, wish he was here. And it's going to be another tough year for Liverpool as a fan base and as a club. Emotionally, that's there's nothing more to be said than it's going to be so difficult. And I just wanted to say quickly, Sam, before we go to break, I spoke to Connor Cody yesterday, and obviously he was his captain at Wolves. And I just said to Connor, like, how are you? Because I feel like everyone forgot how much of a top player Jota was at Wolves. It kind of been made about his Liverpool career.
Wolves fans adore him, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And Connor just said it just makes you want to hug your family a little bit tighter, take every moment as much, appreciate every moment, because we all get caught up in the rat race, and just count our blessings. And I thought that was a perfect sentiment.
Yeah, I mean, look, yesterday you may have noticed that so many people gravitated towards Anfield very quickly after the news was announced. And I know it's like a small thing. It's a sort of gesture. It's a sense of needing to be together with the like-minded, the other grief-stricken. It's about community. We're going to head up to Anfield very shortly. Amelia Beltrao is outside the ground for us today. Look, I don't know what we're going to do today, to be honest with you. I know we get told off and we're called 3 naughty boys on a Friday, giggling and messing around and laughing. And I'm not sure it could be exactly like that today, but we'll see where it takes us over the course of the next few hours. You're listening to talkSPORT.
plays that villain role very well now. It's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
To you, it's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Troy Deeney this morning. There was a piece in one of the papers, I think it was a Telegraph, stating today about the disbelief and sorrow that would linger over Anfield for years. Chris Bascom, I think it wrote so poignantly in that paper. Tragedy is a habit of shadowing Liverpool Football Club like the cruelest of imposters. I thought it was quite moving, actually, how many people flocked to Anfield yesterday to pay their respects to Diogo Jota. The football family always rallies, but definitely Liverpool do as well. Let's head there now and go outside Anfield and join our reporter Amelia Bell-Trow, who can tell us not only about what's happening today, but what happened yesterday as well. Amelia.
Hi there, Sam. Yeah, it's a slightly different mood today, but one that is still slightly sombre and still a bit more emotional. Compared to yesterday, though, that was really raw. People were flocking, as you say, in their hundreds to come and pay their respects, put their scarves, their shirts, lay flowers out, but also just kind of feel connected to this grieving community. And as you say, the footballing community is one that is very good at coming together in these kinds of times, but particularly with Liverpool Football Club, that has been unfortunately rocked by so many tragedies through the years, and I guess that's what makes this fan base so emotional but also so special at the same time. I was also got to speak to an 80-year-old man. He was travelling on a motor scooter. He travelled from the other side of the city and he just wanted to come down and pay his respects. As well as that, I've also seen people gathering around one another. One person brought out their guitar so that they could sing "You'll Never Walk Alone," and they've also got a book of condolence on the other side of the stadium where people were queuing in their hundreds just to write a small message to Diogo Jota and to pay respects to his family as well.
Have you seen members of not only the Liverpool community but teams that are represented by other groups of fans come and pay tribute as well?
Yeah, of course you could expect to see a lot of Liverpool shirts here today and yesterday, but I've seen all kinds of football shirts: Man United, Real Madrid, Portugal, of course, Wolves, and especially Everton. A lot of Everton shirts as well, and they're actually on display here behind me. But you do get a sense that it's not just football fans that are coming down here today. It is just a lot of your normal bypassers, people just popping in before school this morning, before work, on their dog walks this morning, just to kind of get a sense of what this club and this city is going through.
And Amelia, I understand Liverpool have opened a digital book of online condolences as well.
Yes, they have, as well as the physical one here in the stadium. Given this end, I just gather that from the club they just want to try and bring everyone together, because they, as this club, as I say, they've had to go through these kind of tragedies before, and they kind of just want to come together to try and heal such wounds, heal such scars. So I think they are trying to bring out as much outreach to the community to make sure that they do feel connected at this time.
Amelia, thank you very much for joining us. Amelia Beltrao, who's outside Anfield today, and she's on the main stand side. And notice that just looking at the video behind her there, you could see that sort of area absolutely full of shirts and flowers and tokens and gestures expressing sorrow about the passing of Diogo Jota. And it is a club that always comes together. And the sad thing is, I think, Troy, is that this football club seems to have had to deal with this sort of occasion on far too many occasions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Amelia got the tone, spot on there. It's you can see in her face, which she's normally bubbly and lively, isn't she, Amelia? You can see that it's playing on her just being in and around it. I think for the Liverpool fan base, obviously, years now of sorrow attached to that from especially from people dying point of view. I just think they're just special people anyway, the Scousers in general. But I just think Liverpool as a football club always seem to come out of these situations bigger, better, and handle themselves with so much class and dignity that in a strange way, it's good that it's happening to Liverpool because of the way that they handle it. That makes it might sound a little bit weird, Sam, what I'm trying to say, but I just think the way that Liverpool will handle this, I'm glad it's them and it's not a football club that will manage it really wrongly and come out and do weird and wonderful things. Liverpool handled it with respect, with class, and Diogo and his family absolutely need that. And it's a strange topic to be talking about, losing somebody who's 28 years of age. Like, let's put that into perspective. 28 years of age, just got married, got kids, would feel that he's coming into the pomp of his career. And genuinely, it's like there's a little bit in my heart at the moment. It's like pumping a bit weird. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right to be having this conversation.
Do you know what? It's interesting. We sort of said this yesterday. Crook and I were having a conversation. Crook was delayed coming back from Mallorca, and he was like, "I don't care. I'm trying to put things into proper perspective now. I'm down by it, weren't you? And I was the same. I said I rang you because I felt yesterday, and I rang Stuart as well because Stuart sort of articulated it brilliantly. I thought yesterday, he was talking about like the idea that the whole building at News UK just was somber. It was quiet. You know what our office is like. Our office is full of football fans, banter's flying around non-stop. Everyone's having a go at everybody else. Everyone's sort of, geeing everybody up. But it wasn't like that at all yesterday. And he sort of articulated it. And I felt, a bit sort of almost like a bit of an imposter because I felt so down and I felt so shocked and shattered by it. And I said to Stuart, I'm pleased that you articulated that was a common feeling amongst everyone we work with, because I felt like it was me, and I was sort of taking it too, internalizing it too much. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
But I get the sense that everybody's feeling a similar sort of way. People in football reacting to that because it is so cruel. It is so emotional. There has been. I mean, it is an awful scenario because I think exacerbated and emphasised by the fact that just 11 days ago you saw those pictures of him with his long-time partner. The fact that his partner 4 days ago posted on Instagram that it was the day that all her dreams come true, and you just can't imagine the shattering effect that happens on that happens to that family.
I think also that maybe we're guilty of falling to the trap of thinking our top sports stars, footballers in particular, with the trappings that come with that, in the peak of physical fitness, they don't seem to have any worries in the world. They're invincible. And I think this just reminds us that nobody is invincible, and we're all guilty at times of taking life for granted and over-analysing the things that in the grand scheme of things don't really matter. You mentioned social media there. Obviously, social media can also sometimes be a force for evil. I think in this case, it's a force for good. You look at the tributes that have poured in from, you say, people like Cristiano Ronaldo. There was one from Jack Grealish that touched me as well, and the Andy Robertson one that you've mentioned. I think it helps people through this grieving process. And Troy's absolutely right what he said about Liverpool. I thought the tribute from Jurgen Klopp was spot on, as you would expect. Arne Slot used his words beautifully. And then you look at people like Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes, two very private individuals. You wouldn't get them coming on this programme to talk about their successes, and certainly not in this scenario either. But they put their name to what was a very classy statement. So obviously this is a horrendous situation, but there are rays of light around it that hopefully will give his family and friends comfort in time.
Yeah, the parish priest of Diogo Jota's hometown, Gondomar, says that the funeral for the Liverpool player and his younger brother will take place tomorrow. That's Saturday morning, local time, 10 a.m., which is 9 a.m. in the UK. And we send our very best to the family, to the friends, to the colleagues of Diogo Jota, who passed away over the last couple of days. Right, when we come back, we will be talking a little bit more football. We're going to focus on some of the stuff that's happening tonight, overnight, in the Club World Cup. Chelsea in the quarterfinals.
The number 20 shirt will be immortalised, say Liverpool, as the tributes continue to flood in memory of Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva. Liverpool reporter for the Daily Mail, Dom King, says it's a tremendous loss for the club.
The outpouring of grief is incredible, and it just gives you an idea of how loved he was universally. He was a superstar person, and he was the type of player and character that if you're going to be successful as a team, you need him.
The funeral wake set to take place this afternoon before a mass on Saturday in the town where less than 2 weeks ago Jota got married. Andy Robertson says Jota was a man bursting with love, writing, "I can't believe we're saying goodbye. It's too soon and it hurts so much, but thank you for being in my life, mate, and for making it better." It's not just his teammates he built a strong relationship with, it was the fans too. They're still turning up in huge numbers to lay flowers, scarves and letters to their number 20. Former Liverpool striker Neil Mellor said the strength of feeling between Jota and the fans was clear to see.
I think he had a great connection with the fans as well. You know, the bond he had a really popular song that the fans absolutely love singing, and you know, no doubt that's going to take a new meaning to it for next season. You know, I think it'll be a lot more emotional to hear the words sang, but he was really well liked, and the fans liked that work ethic, the fact that he worked so hard.
game tomorrow. That's live on talkSPORT. I'm off to the Wales game, actually, tomorrow in Switzerland. But let's have a look now ahead to today's Club World Cup action, all thanks to our friends at DAZN.
FIFA Club World Cup Roundup on talkSPORT, presented by DAZN. Watch every game of the FIFA Club World Cup live and for free on DAZN. Sign up now at DAZN.com.
Chelsea play Palmeiras overnight. Enzo Maresca has said it will be up to Pedro Neto to decide whether or not he decides to play tonight. This is what he said.
It's completely Pedro's decision. I had a chat this morning with Pedro. We support him. Any decision he will take is the correct one, and we are going to support him in any case. So it doesn't matter if we'll be in the pitch or not tomorrow. We see how he is feeling tomorrow, but in any case, we're gonna support him.
Yeah, obviously very close to Diogo Jota from his time with the international Portuguese team. They were close friends as well. And Neto also was at Wolverhampton Wanderers, the club that's got a very strong connection with Diogo Jota as well. So you can understand why Enzo Maresca is being very sort of cagey about whether or not he plays tonight. It's a completely individual situation, Troy, isn't it? And a difficult situation as well, because if you're the manager, you don't want to put pressure on the player to participate if his head is not right.
Yeah, absolutely. This is all down to the player, and sometimes as players, you think you want to play, and you start playing, and you just not at it. You're 5-10% less, and obviously that's understandable. But you think, let me just be here. Let me just do the game and the sport that I love as a distraction. And yeah, I think it's a conversation that they need to have together. If he is Neto is umming and ahhing whether to, I would hope that the manager just says no. But if he's adamant he wants to play, then obviously Sammy, he's got to go and play and let him ply his trade.
It's one of those things as well, though, Alex, isn't it? With the football, is all very secondary to the well-being of the people that are involved. And I think Enzo Maresca just handled that situation perfectly yesterday.
Yeah, he did. And I guess it will go one of two ways, as Troy said. Either, Pedro Neto will take himself out of the situation and decide that his head isn't in the right place to play, or he might think that actually throwing himself into the game that Diogo, his great friend, loved is the way to help manage his grief and maybe, come up with a match-winning moment and pay tribute in that fashion. But it has to be an individual choice. From a Chelsea perspective, that they're a better team with him in it. I think he's having an excellent tournament. I think he'll probably play. Just a hunch.
Chelsea, the highest rated now by Opta to win the Club World Cup. A lot of that's to do with the draw that they've got. They've become the favourites, not necessarily with the bookmakers, but with the data analysts. The South Americans, though, have done very, very well at this tournament. So Palmeiras might not give Chelsea everything their own way, Crook.
No, and this is obviously a repeat of the final in 2021 when it went all the way to extra time and they proved a tough nut to crack there before Chelsea won the trophy. 10 clean sheets, Palmeiras, in their last 14 games. So defensively, they're obviously quite resolute. They are missing a couple of players due to suspension. But it wouldn't surprise me if this goes the distance again. Obviously, Chelsea taking extra time in farcical circumstances by Benfica. I can see a situation where maybe the match is a draw after 90 minutes, then Chelsea find a way to win in that extra half an hour.
Yeah. Moises Caicedo also suspended, which leaves a big hole in Chelsea's midfield. He's been so important for Chelsea over the course of this season. I think he started every single Premier League game he was available for, but he got a booking for dissent in that Benfica game, and as a result is missing tonight's match, which is also live on talkSPORT. Let's talk a little bit about Chelsea and how equipped they are going into the title. I think that's been maybe enhanced by the signing of your teammate or former teammate Joao Pedro, Troy. Enzo Maresca talking about that yesterday. He has been added to the squad. He is eligible to play now in this competition. What will he bring?
An intensity. That's what Joao brings. He's obviously an exceptional football player. We were just talking upstairs, wasn't we, Crookie, about the social media clips that Chelsea have put out in training where he's throwing his weight around already, and he is all or nothing. Joao, he's exceptional football player. I think the misconception of him is that he's a troublemaker. He's absolutely not that at all. He's passionate. He's energetic. He wants to win. He wants to play every minute of every game. But I think at Chelsea now you're going to see the real Joao Pedro, which is one that enjoys competition, one that believes he should be starting for Brazil, and one that wants to go and show you guys, this is who I am. I've seen this player since he was 18 years old, and the mentality has not changed one bit. It's always been, I want to be the best. I want to play for my national team. I want to be the new R9. Whether he can be that, obviously, is for everyone to decide after the fact. But the short term, it's all about how he gets there, and he's only 23 years of age. I think the business that Chelsea has done this summer has been exceptional so far.
I'm going to talk to Crook about that because I'm still trying to work out the financial gymnastics that allows them to do all this business. I can't work it out. They've signed him on a £60 million deal, though, Troy. It's an 8-year contract. Is this the place? Is this the vehicle for him to fulfil his ambitions of being Brazil's number 9? Because that is what he wants to do. He wants to go into next World Cup and he wants to be the star for Brazil.
Is it? Yes, I would say it is. Yes, it is in the short term.
How does it happen?
Because it can take Chelsea into... If Chelsea start competing now both on the Champions League front and in the Premier League, he will be part of that vehicle, right, that has done that. If they go to win this tournament, they would argue he's had a little push in that as well. I just think when you look at the Brazilian national team, it's not as strong as the Brazilian national teams we've seen over the years with recognisable names and standout world-class players that have turned out to be football greats. So I think he will look at it and go, yes, he can do that. I think an 8-year contract is more for Chelsea spreading it over PSR. I'm sure Crookie can tell us that a lot better about that. But I think if he does well for 2 years there, at Real Madrid, at Barcelona, they'll come knocking, and Chelsea are a model of buying young and potentially selling on for a lot more than what they paid for.
Okay, so Crook, can you unpick this for me? Because I'm looking at the deals that Chelsea have done this summer. They've signed Joao Pedro for 60 million. They've agreed a deal for Gittins from Dortmund. That's going to be worth 55 million quid. They've signed Dario Isugo of Sporting Lisbon, Mamadou Sarr from Strasbourg, Kennedy Paez from Independiente. Also, they've got agreements with Estevao, who's coming in from Palmeiras, actually. He's going to join after the Club World Cup. They've signed Liam Delap as well. I thought they had PSR problem this time last year, and that's why they had to sell the women's club and 2 hotels. So how are they still managing to spend so much money?
Well, they've been quite creative, haven't they, as you say, finding loopholes that actually Aston Villa have now copied this summer. The £30 million release clause for Liam Delap is significant because that goes down on the balance sheet in one payment because they've not done what Arsenal have done with Zubamendi, for example, and paid a little bit over the release clause to stagger the payments. That's a one-off payment of £30 million. The Joao Pedro transfer is worth £60 million, but not all of that is accounted for up front. As Troy's mentioned, that the reason they give these long contracts, Chelsea, they were the first to exploit that particular loophole, is so they can stagger the payments over the course of contracts and therefore help with PSR. But they've got players they need to move on. Carney Chukwuemeka, for example. I know Borussia Dortmund are keen to keep him for another season on loan. Chelsea would rather cash in and get some money in the bank in terms of balancing some of their spend. Raheem Sterling is back there after his loan spell. I don't think anybody's going to come and pay significant money for him, with the greatest respect in the world. Ben Chilwell in the same scenario. They've got other young players they're open to offers for. And I still think they might cash in on Nicholas Jackson. You look at the players they've brought. Gittins is going to come in on that left-hand side. Obviously, he's a direct replacement for the likes of Jadon Sancho, who's gone back to United, and Mykhailo Mudryk, who may well be facing a lengthy suspension. Where is Joao Pedro going to play? Delap certainly wants to be the number 9 to give himself the best possible chance of getting in the England squad next summer. And they haven't come out publicly, Chelsea, and said Nicholas Jackson is not for sale. If they get a decent offer, I think they'll consider it for him, and that might just help navigate those PSR issues you talk about.
Well, the other thing that they sort of did a couple of years ago was they tried to get some of the senior players off the books because they were earning too much money in terms of their wages were high. But I don't think Joao Pedro's gone there without being heavily incentivised, Troy.
No, he's done all right. That's all I'm going to say on it. He's done all right.
He can afford the coffee run.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, he's no. Look, again, you go to a London-based club, you get paid a premium anyway, right? That's just part and parcel of living in London and how expensive it is. If you was to join West Ham or Fulham, you get paid.
Hold on. Are you telling me that there is a London waiting for football clubs as well? I mean, that used to be a thing back in the day about, you get paid a little bit extra if you work in a restaurant in London because the cost of living was so high. But that applies to footballers, does it? So if you're playing for Nottingham Forest, you get a certain wage, but if you play for West Ham, you get more.
No, obviously there's cost of living, right? So if you bought for example, you bought a £2 million gaff in Nottingham, as you just said, and the £2 million gaff that you bought in London, they got to look very different, is what I would suggest. So obviously people put that into their calculation and into their thinking. That's all, Sam. It's just part of the game. Don't blame me.
Just on Brazil, by the way, I mean, we've spoken a lot this summer about the lack of number 9s. There's a lot of teams in the Premier League who want a number 9. I think we're all a little bit concerned after this World Cup, when Harry Kane obviously is a little bit older, who is going to be England's number 9 moving forward. The fact we're talking about one of the great football nations like Brazil not having that world-class number 9, when you look at some of the players who have plied their trade in that position, I think that just shows that even Brazil are not immune to this dearth of Troy Deeneys knocking around
they
the
can
globe.
do it. Listen, they're doing all right with Joao. Joao's good. Obviously, they've got Rafinha obviously coming in off that left. But I think for Chelsea, when you just looked at the business and everyone that Sam just announced there, I think that the hard part will be getting considered value for money of anyone that they do get rid of. Talk about Raheem Sterling. That's probably going to end up being a payoff, isn't it, of some description, even if it's half the wages to get him to go somewhere else. And he didn't do well last year, did he, Sam? That everyone will be banging down the door for him.
No, that's the problem. We went to Arsenal and it didn't work out for him, which is a bit of an issue. It's a real shame that it hasn't worked out with him, because I know that he really wanted to make an impact when he came to Chelsea a couple of years ago. And he was the poster boy of the new takeovers, first real tranche of signings. Maybe Brighton could do Chelsea a favour. Chelsea have given them enough money over the course of the last few years. Maybe they can reciprocate.
I'm not sure he quite fits the model at Brighton.
Crook made this joke when we were doing the Premier League All Access podcast this week, in which he said, Sam, you've got this thing on your phone that when Alan Brazil doesn't turn up for the breakfast show, the producer of that show can ring you, and even if you're on Do Not Disturb, it will come through to get you out of bed, to make sure you're there to take the call and to host the show. He said, I think that Tony Bloom has got a similar sort of arrangement with Todd Bowley. The minute that he rings Tony Bloom, that doesn't matter. It just gets sived straight through the Do Not Disturb in order to take his call, because he knows he's getting a few million quid as a result of it. That was a look ahead to the FIFA World Cup with the World Club Cup with DAZN. Watch every game of the FIFA Club World Cup live and for free with DAZN. Sign up at DAZN.com.
FIFA Club World Cup Roundup on talkSPORT, presented by DAZN. Sign up now at DAZN.com to watch every game live and for free.
He plays that villain role very well now. It's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
The wait is finally over as the reunion of the century starts tonight, and we're giving you the chance to win a pair of Oasis tickets in Manchester on July the 19th. Yes, you heard that right. Oasis Live 2025. It's totally sold out, but talkSPORT can get you in. Alongside the tickets, we'll put you up for a night in a hotel and put $5,000 in your back pocket as well, completely tax-free. Listen up right now for everything you need to know and how to get involved.
On iArcade, you have to be over 18 to enter in the UK, excluding Northern Ireland, for the chance to win a pair of tickets to the most electrifying rock and roll reunion of the century, a hotel stay and $5,000 spending money. Text the word Oasis to 83338 by Monday the 7th of July at 11 p.m. and you'll be entered into the draw to go supersonic this summer. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission, or post your name and number to Oasis Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 AGP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of July. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's at talksport.com. Good luck, yeah? Sorted.
We're going to head to Switzerland very shortly for England training later on in the programme. But the Welsh are also getting their Euro 2025 campaign underway tomorrow night. Their debut in the competition, their first ever major tournament match, the Netherlands in Lucerne. I'm actually doing Germany-Poland tonight and then scooting down to Lucerne for that game tomorrow. Jane Ludlow, MBE, former Wales captain, former Arsenal captain as well, joins us live to discuss it. Hi, Jane.
Morning.
Nice to see you again. Has Karen Carney forgiven you yet for pointing out her deficiencies attempting to mark from a corner live on television?
I'm still giggling about it, Sam. Yeah, look, Kaz, lot of respect for Kaz. Loved playing alongside her for many years, but defending corners wasn't her thing. But no, yeah, look, I really enjoyed the opportunity to be involved in the first game of the Euros the other day, but, you know, so much more excited for our first game tomorrow.
Yeah, huge, isn't it? What does a successful tournament look like for Wales?
Oh, do you know, it's quite hard to say. I think you look at it from a different perspective, a different lens. For players, they'll want to get results. They'll want to get through. They'll want to get out of the group. And I'm sure the sports staff will be the same. For us as fans now, we're just loving the fact that we get to support our national team on the highest level now, on a big stage. So for us, not results are irrelevant. We want the game to keep growing. And if we can cause an upset in one of those games, then, you know, it just accelerates that growth moving forwards for us.
You mentioned it's great to be able to support Wales. Obviously, maybe that doesn't necessarily extend to government level. I know there's a lot of unrest and disappointment that no Welsh minister will be at the game against France. What's your take on that?
Oh, to be honest, it's a world I don't occupy, I'll be honest. I'm focusing on players and support staff and how that world works. And I'm also, as a parent of two young children now, my little boy and my little girl, they are so excited to put that TV on tomorrow and see the girls play. I think, especially for my little girl, having those role models in front of her, on the box, being able to watch them is just going to be immense. So in a sense of what people in powerful positions in Wales do and how they look at this opportunity for us. I'd have to know the context to have an opinion on it, to be honest, and I don't.
Yeah, Jane, hi, Troy Deeney here. I just wanted to say my daughter, who plays football now, got into football by watching the Lionesses a few years back and obviously getting behind that. And you just speaking there as a parent. What is the hope for young females in Wales watching this? Because football as a whole has taken a little bit of a backward step, hasn't it, in Wales over the last few years, with the men's game especially. Will this see a success pattern now for younger females watching their idols on the screen?
Yeah, look, we're on a different trajectory. I think if you look at men's success over 12 years or whatever it is now and get into major tournaments, we've had that buzz, we've had those opportunities to grow there, and it's a different system. You know, for us, we're kind of at the start of that. On the big stage now, oh my gosh, if we could cause an upset, then it'll just, that growth is just going to accelerate even more. But I think for people like myself who've been in the system, and whether as a player, support person, generations before us, you know, we are coming from a completely different angle, and we're just going, oh my gosh, this is still unbelievable to us.
Yeah.
Because we tried to get there so many times with lots of adversity, but thankfully, you know, the team are at that level that they can compete.
Yeah, let's talk about the team a little bit, because there is lots of experience in the team. As you mentioned, it's almost a blend of different generations, isn't it? And then you've got a lot of exciting young players as well in the Welsh team that have clicked and sort of somehow managed to qualify for this tournament. Sophie Ingle is fit. How important is that for the whole group that she's able to come along?
It's huge. You know, you're right. There's a right mix there. Really experienced players who played top level, mostly WSL, but like Jess out in the States, played in the highest level of competition for many years at their clubs, but haven't had the opportunity for the national team. But then you also have, which we'll always have as a small nation, a pool of that next crop coming through who might have not had that exposure. They might not even be getting it on a club level regularly right now. And it's that balancing act from a coaching perspective. How do you give that experience suitably, but not throw them in too early? So it's an interesting one for Rian and the team to balance right now. But I'm sure, look, they'll all be excited, whether they're the 16 or 17-year-olds coming through or whether they're the 38-year-old. If I get that right from Jess? Yeah.
Great that Jess Fishlock is involved as well. It means a lot to her, doesn't it?
Oh gosh, yes. It'd be hard for her to even explain it to people, I think. You know, if I think back to Jess when she first came into the squad and it was a case of, who's this little kid? Crikey, she could play. Hold on, I'm going to have to lift my level here to get the ball back off her. But, you know, she's been on such a journey. But I think for us as a nation, people may not realise that Jess would never turn down anything for Wales. You know, whether we were going to a tiny nation somewhere or one of the bigger nations, she would be there and she'd be the first looking forward to that game just to put the Welsh shirt on and compete. So for her, it's probably hard to put into words.
It's obviously a really difficult group on paper. What chances realistically do you think Wales have got of springing a surprise? If they can do that, who is the key player?
Ooh. Look, my heart is very much telling me we can cause an upset. The reality is that's going to be so difficult. Even if all the team go out, perform to the best level possible and connect really well, we're going to have to defend a lot. So you automatically move towards the back line and the goalkeeper. And Liv Clark, who's a young player still, but has quite a lot of exposure over the last few seasons, and she's done really well for us. But she's a huge player. She has to play out of her skin every single game. But you look, there's key players all through the units there, whether you're in the back line, you talk about Hayley Ladd, or whether you're looking at Anne Harrod-James, who's the captain now, or whether you're looking forwards and Hannah Kane, who's more of that young generation coming through. They all need to play their part.
Jane, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming on. Hopefully I'll see you over the course of the next few weeks. That's a big game tomorrow for Wales. And you never know, actually. The French are falling out. Some of their best players have been left out. Half the England squad seems to have retired. And the Netherlands, you know, they were beaten up by Germany in the Nations League. So there could be a shock. Keep your fingers crossed, Jane.
Yeah, look, we believe. We're looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for coming on. That's Jane Ludlow, heavily involved with Wales over the last 20 years, and delighted to have her on talkSPORT this morning. We'll talk about Tyson Fury next.
The number 20 shirt will be immortalised, say Liverpool, as the tributes continue to flood in memory of Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva. Liverpool reporter for the Daily Mail, Dom King, says it's a tremendous loss for the club.
The outpouring of grief is incredible, and it just gives you an idea of how loved he was universally. Fans, you know, I've been trying to explain to some people who are not familiar with it, and he was never the superstar, but he was a superstar person, and he was the type of player and character that if you're going to be successful as a team, you need him.
The funeral wake set to take place this afternoon before a mass on Saturday in the town where less than 2 weeks ago Jota got married. Andy Robertson says Jota was a man bursting with love, writing, "I can't believe we're saying goodbye. It's too soon and it hurts so much. But thank you for being in my life, mate, and for making it better." It's not just his teammates he built a strong relationship with, it was the fans too. They're still turning up in huge numbers to lay flowers, scarves and letters to their number 20. Former Liverpool striker Neil Mellor said the strength of feeling between Jota and the fans was clear to see.
I think he had a great connection with the fans as well. You know, the bond he had a really popular song that the fans absolutely love singing, and you know, no doubt that's going to take a new meaning to it for next season. You know, I think it'll be a lot more emotional to hear the words sang, but he was really well liked, and the fans liked that work ethic, the fact that he worked so hard.
You can read all the tributes pouring in for Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva on our live blog at talksport.com. Heading over to the Lions tour down under now, and there's been a mixed reaction to head coach Andy Farrell calling up his son Owen to replace the injured Elliot Daly. But despite not playing Test rugby in 2 years, former Scotland international and his old Saracens teammate Jim Hamilton told us it's a no-brainer to call Faz back up.
It's been a tough, humbling 12, 18 months for Owen, and from a kind of personal point of view, but also like a fan's point of view of the Lions, you've got a proven performer, you've got a warrior, and you've got a guy that's really hungry, and he's a quality operator, as we know.
Story a little bit later on talkSPORT with Alex Crook, you can see there. Sheffield Wednesday, talk about them a little bit later on live on this programme with me, Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Troy Deeney. Everton trying to tie up a deal for Jared Branthwaite as well. In fact, not only trying to tie up a deal, tying up a deal for Jared Branthwaite, which has been a bit of a saga over the last couple of years, but the change of ownership certainly helping them out, and what a coup it is for them to have signed him on a long-term deal. We'll discuss that a little bit later as well, and we'll talk about the importance of spending power and what that can give you. But first of all, time for a feature with Keep Britain Tidy.
Get in the bin! On talkSPORT with Keep Britain Tidy. No ifs, no buts. If you smoke, bin your butts.
OK, we're doing our feature with Keep Britain Tidy. We're going to take a look at what's got us all fired up and what we want to put in the bin, so to speak. I wonder whether or not Tyson Fury, his antics of coming back and forth are fatiguing the boxing public. Does boxing miss him? Is there a Fury void to fill? Clearly, He is an absolute legend, but it's all a little bit transparent, Troy, isn't it? I mean, a pantomime with Tyson. I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out, I'm retired, I'm back in the ring. Or does it just keep the conversation going? Does it keep the allure, the possibility, this prospect that eventually one day you might get... And I mean, there might be 85 and 83 by the time it happens, but we might get Fury and AJ in a ring at the same time.
Well, I was with you until I seen Tyson on Tuesday and Wednesday out in Turkey, where I've just come back from with the IBA meeting that I was at. But I was like, oh, he's retired again. You know, he'll be back. Don't worry. Someone will give him a bigger payday. And I think the narrative around him kind of changed after the last Usyk fight. People thought he was a bit of a bad loser, sore loser, a bit bitter. But when I saw the amount of crowd that this man pulls, the charisma, the actual human being, especially when he was around boxing, I was fortunate to be sat behind him with the Smith brothers, and he was talking to Roy Jones all about boxing. So passionate, so knowledgeable, so energetic. You're like, this guy can't leave boxing. It's just in him. Whether I think after this he may be a manager, maybe a trainer, something of that nature, but he's so knowledgeable on the sport, and just being in earshot of that was fantastic. But purely from a media hub, how many times have we spoken about him and he's not even been involved in a fight?
We're always talking about him because he is such a big personality, and anybody who watched that At Home with the Furies documentary, I don't know if you saw it, Crook, but it was absolutely compelling. You couldn't turn it off. I think they're going to do another series of it, from what I understand. And it's that sort of charisma, that charm, that pull that I think keeps everybody in the palm of his hand.
Yeah, no, I agree. I did watch a bit of that, and certainly I think he's a real positive influence for boxing just because of that sheer force of personality you talk about. Mm-hmm. But I do get a little bit bored of him retiring 1 minute and then coming out of retirement because he gets offered a big payday. I'm not saying he doesn't still have a lot to offer the sport, but you need all the sort of histrionics that go around it.
Yeah,
that's boxing, isn't it? That's boxing.
I think you do. I think just when you look at, especially like combat sports, when you look at it, if you don't have personalities, there was a massive UFC fight on the weekend. You didn't know about it, did you? Because when Conor McGregor's involved, for example, or Tom Aspinall, people that talk really well and get the media on side, then everybody knows about it. When Tyson Fury talks, again, I was absolutely flabbergasted to see just how many people want to get him on their channel, on a podcast. It was like, Sam, after a World Cup game and everyone's got the microphones trying to hear what the Brazil national manager said or what Gareth Southgate said. He just conducted the orchestra so well. 10 minutes, just, here's what I'm going to give you. Bang, 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 bang. He moved and the whole place moved with him. It was fantastic to see, and I knew he was a big star, and I knew obviously he's excellent for boxing, but just to see how big he was frightening.
You have to time your retirements right, though, don't you, Troy? I mean, I can't work it out. Are you retired or not retired yet? I mean,
Crookie retired me the second I came in the building. Yeah, so
is that now official?
No. And I think, Sam, you called me quite chunky after the paddle game we played. So between the two of you, I'm officially done. Yeah.
Is there video evidence of that? I'm not sure there is.
But what's the motivation for Tyson Fury coming out of retirement? Is it because he genuinely believes he can win this fight?
Yeah.
Or is it because he's trying to top up the bank balance?
I don't think he's short of a few quid. I definitely don't think he's short of a few quid. But I think
he's definitely not short.
He's not, do you know what I mean?
Quid.
It's not going to be coming out going, oh, do you know what? I need this one to pay the bills. So
do you think he'll win?
I think Usyk. I think he has all the capabilities of beating Usyk. It's been really close, both of those fights. Depending on what you like, it depends on obviously how it gets scored. I think Usyk would be a great fight. I think him versus AJ, and I spoke to Spencer Brown out there, and I said for both of them, my opinion would be their legacy would be tarnished if they never fought each other. I genuinely believe that strongly about it. I think they are exceptional, great British talents. You look back through the history, you had Frank Bruno versus Lennox Lewis. We had those heavyweight clashes when you go, oh, who is the best of that era? Doesn't mean, by the way, we don't like either, and we love both of them. But if they come out of this and they've obviously been spoken about as exceptional talents for this generation, if they don't fight each other, especially now, Sam, when every big fight is being made, I just think it's going to tarnish their legacy.
But again, when does it become too late for that fight? You know, do we really want to see that fight when both are arguably past their best?
I think you're still going to see it anyway. But I think when we had Amir Khan, Cal Brook, I think everyone was still excited when it was very much evident they were back past their best. Floyd
But
Mayweather
I think
versus Patrick.
the point is that the anticipation will still be high.
Yeah.
But are we going to get a Mayweather-Pacquiao situation when they were well past their best by the time they fought, and it was not as compelling to watch as it was to sort of anticipate and to build up to?
Or a counter-argument for that is, do you get two guys that know this is the last one, and they give you everything, and they go out on a Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. type fight, and we go, oh my God, that was one for the ages. You don't know.
Quick point just to outline exactly what's happening. It was Turki Al El Sheikh who confirmed that Tyson Fury will make a return to boxing next year. It was his fifth retirement, by the way, we've worked out. His fifth retirement that he's now coming back from. And the idea is that they're going to fight Wembley Stadium against Alexander Usyk in April. I just wonder that by 2026, by the time we get to April 2026, it's a long way away. A lot can happen between now and then. Listening to Derek Chisora this week speak about Dubois and Atoma and about the sort of changing heavyweight landscape. Is it going to be old news by then, Troy?
No, because you've got the Dubois Usyk fight coming up 2 weeks time. So I think you're going to be in a situation where that happens. You've still got Joseph Parker. He's the only one who I always feel sorry for, because he keeps getting kind of all these big opportunities to fight for bouts, which he's absolutely earned, kind of keep getting manoeuvred away from him because of what's going on with the monetary value at stake. I think AJ will probably come back, won't he, and have a fight September-ish. So if you look at it, they'll probably have one fight. AJ potentially has two fights before he fights Tyson Fury. Who they are, we don't know yet. But I think once we get it a year from now, a year in boxing is not that big.
Yeah, Derek said that he doesn't want a warm-up fight. He wants to get straight back in the ring, one last big goodbye fight, and he wants to just rake it all in. I know that you were with him, actually.
Yeah. After being put in a headlock, Sam, by him, I'm pretty sure he's very much ready to fight at any moment.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. Listen, we'll get you to outline exactly why you were in Turkey, and it's got nothing to do. Your teeth are absolutely fine, so it definitely wasn't anything to do with that.
I might have to get the hair done, though, but other than that, it's bang on.
I can sort you out with something. Right, let's get off to the cricket and go to Edgbaston. It's day 3 of the second test. Sam Ellard is there for us. And usually in a situation like this, back in the day, with such a commanding lead for India, it would all be about grinding out and trying to get a draw. But England are not going to do that if they lose early wickets. Sam Ellard.
You're right, they won't do that. And they've lost 2 wickets in 2 balls in the second over on day 3. England at 84 for 5. Joe Root gone for 22. A ball from Mohamed Siraj off Joe Root's pads, which you'd expect him just to flick, work into the leg side. All he could do is tickle the ball behind to Rishabh Pant, who takes the catch. Then comes to the crease the captain, Ben Stokes. He's greeted by a bouncer, tries to drop his hand. All it could do, though, is take the glove of Ben Stokes. It goes through to Rishabh Pant. That brings Jamie Smith to the crease. Mohamed Siraj is on a hat-trick. The dream start for India. 2 wickets in 2 balls. Root's gone, Stokes is gone. England in big trouble at 84 for 5, trailing by 503 runs.
Thank you very much for keeping in touch with Sam Ellard throughout the course of the day. Troy, just a quick word on your trip to Turkey. It was all to do with the launch of the IBA, wasn't it? And what they're doing in terms of trying to create a pathway for fighters that don't really have a platform.
Yeah, honestly, mate, it was excellent. 2 days in Istanbul. Obviously saw Spence and Gareth and Ed, all the team out there. The IBA has been in a position now where they're trying to help amateur boxers across the world, not just in certain locations. It's across the world, putting on big title fights. Also on this show, they showcased that they had a game coming, a new boxing game, which is, it looks a bit like Fortnite in that way. You build up your character and go on these different journeys.
It's a computer game.
Computer game, yes. They had
Crook's brilliant at those.
Yeah, he looks like someone who plays a lot of computer games. He also had Naomi Campbell there, showcasing all of their wear, the women's wear and the men's wear, the fashion element of it. And then on the night, the actual boxing, they had 5 boxing fights, 2 bare knuckle fights. It was an unbelievable occasion. The who's were there: Terence Crawford, Tyson Fury, Conor Benn, Leon Edwards, you name it, Ben Whittaker, all there. And somehow
Who's
I got
paying
on it.
for this?
Because it's nice of you to take time out from your busy schedule, and you know, just because you're a nice guy, go out there and lend your support.
Obviously, that's the only reason all of us were there.
Derek's
was to
given
be-
that away.
Yeah,
I'm afraid.
did Derek let
he
everyone
said
know
it
we got
live on
paid?
air, yeah.
yeah. But no, it was great, and obviously the president of the IBA looked after everyone and made sure it was good. Mate, honestly, all jokes aside, it was an unbelievable 2 days. I'm
Sounds
sure
like it.
when you speak to everyone, looked after like kings. Got to see everything, very open, very transparent about what they're trying to do, building all these centres for young amateurs to have the profile and also to look after themselves, because boxing is a brutal sport, isn't it? Like when you're training, I was talking to lads, when you're training, you're still getting punched in the face. You know, it's not something that you make a lot of money from an amateur's point of view, and they're trying to change that.
We did take this show to Istanbul once, Crook and I, and we ended up on the back of the Hull City Owners motorboat. Is that what you'll call it?
Speedboat.
And being given a tour around the Bosphorus, which was quite an experience. And Istanbul is a beautiful city. We didn't get paid a load of money though to go over there and support a boxing event. But we are open to that.
Are you open to these type of things? Or?
Absolutely. That was all thanks to Keep Britain Tidy. You're listening to talkSPORT. We're going to talk a little bit about Sheffield Wednesday next, because their players are in a difficult position. They've been given it's a 3 transfer window ban from signing players, partly relating to the late payment of players' salaries last season, but it's becoming a bit of a habit, and it does mean that in certain circumstances, the PFA believe that some of those players can now walk away. So the question is, will they?
Get in the bin! On talkSPORT with Keep Britain Tidy. No ifs, no buts. If you smoke, bin your butts.
He plays that villain role very well now. That's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally, and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
that game is overnight tonight. Every time I pick up the apps and try and work out when the fixtures are, I always get a little bit confused as to which day they're actually taking place. It is taking place, that quarter-final game, late tonight, early tomorrow morning. So join us for that. Right, OK, let's get off to Wimbledon, get an update with talkSPORT's Elisa O'Sullivan ahead of what is another seismic day.
Yeah, and then there were 3 Brits left in the draw, all 3 in action today. Emma Raducanu will be looking to be creative against the hard-hitting top seed Aryna Sabalenka. Lobs and drop shots. There's little point of fighting fire with fire when it comes to the Belarusian. She needs to start beating the big names on the big stage, though. Taylor Fritz is the first match of the day on centre. He has played 2 5-set matches so far. I think they've stuck him on early so they can get that one finished. Raducanu in the tea time slot. Over on court number 1 at 1 o'clock, though, it's Sonny Cartal who'll take on the French qualifier Diane Parry, who has matched the Brits ranking of 49, but that was some time ago. Cartal having currently the best year of her career. Cameron Norrie is in action on 1 as well against Mattia Bellucci. But on court at the moment, we're watching Naomi Osaka, the Japanese player who's gone under the radar so far. She's 3-love up against Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova in the first set of their match on court 2.
32 seeds went out over the course of the first 2 rounds, so it'll be fascinating to hear from Marcus Buckland a little bit later on today. Time now, though, for us to round up some of football's top business stories with Tesco Mobile for Business.
Business briefing on talkSPORT with Tesco Mobile for Business. Got a side hustle? Get business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big mobile networks. For terms and verification, visit tescomobile.com/business.
What's going on at Sheffield Wednesday? Last week, the EFL handed the club a transfer ban for 3 windows, partly relating to the late payment of player salaries last season. Sheffield Wednesday appealing, but if unsuccessful, they'll be able to spend any money or any loans or any permanent transfers until January 2027. The crisis has deepened. 6 players handing in their notice after their wages were not paid. For the 3rd time in 4 months, Sheffield Wednesday have failed to pay all of their players' wages on time. The PFA Chief Executive Maheta Malango has confirmed that the Players' Union believes many of the Sheffield Wednesday senior players can terminate their contracts following the Championship club's serious and/or persistent failure to pay wages on time, describing the situation as shocking and not tolerable. If you were in that dressing room, what would you do, Troy?
I'll be speaking to my agent about how do we get out of it, would be the honest truth. I think when you're in a position of not being paid, it's poor, and I think if you're in a position of not being paid, once or twice, and there's a bit of an issue, and you're not quite sure of what's going on, maybe it's a takeover, etc., you can kind of sit there and go, okay, let's see how this is going to play out. I feel like Sheffield Wednesday, for close to, I want to say, a decade now, has been spoken about negatively from a financial point of view. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest clubs in England, let's be totally honest about it. It's a massive club, massive history, massive stadium. I feel like for 10 years now, we've never spoken about Sheffield Wednesday in a positive light. Is that an unfair thing to say?
No, it's happened quite a lot, and there have been a few sort of changes of ownership that have precipitated that. I mean, I think when Milan Mandaric was there initially, there was quite an uplift in terms of, though they was stabilised, but they've been a club that has been in the wrong division for me for a very long time. And that, when I was growing up, they were always a top division team, Sheffield Wednesday. Rightly or wrongly, I sort of still perceive them as one of the big clubs as a result of that. But this is a deep crisis now, because there's some long-serving players there, Crook, who are very committed to the club. And I'm thinking about a couple of them off the top of my head. One of them, Barry Bannon, who may end up not being part of the club future going forward, and that's a real problem. And obviously, they've still got the issue. I mean, what is the latest issue with the manager, Danny Roll?
Well, he's negotiating a payoff. He didn't return to take pre-season training as you would have expected him to. That's been done by his coaching staff, despite the fact a lot of them, I think, are expected to leave as well. Wouldn't surprise me if he pitched up at Leicester City to replace Ruud van Nistelrooy. But obviously, there's a bit of a poker match going on there, because I'm sure that the Sheffield Wednesday owner would want a bit of compensation. Danny Roll obviously wants to get out as cheaply as possible to make his next move. But for me, the most alarming line in the notes that the producers prepared for us on this story is that the owner, Chansiri, decided to pay only the club's under-21 players, as in his opinion, they have the highest value in the transfer market. I mean, that is that is pretty sinister to me.
Yeah.
That is almost an act of sabotage. And I tweeted about it while I was on holiday. This is a grand old football club, one of the grandest football clubs in England. That seemingly this guy is running into the ground. They're not training at the training ground. The players, they've been training at a local park because the building work that he sanctioned hasn't been paid for and therefore not completed on time. The pre-season tour has been cancelled. No pre-season friendlies have been put in place. There's no manager at the moment. As I've already mentioned, this looks like a real catastrophe, and I think the EFL need to get involved. It's not dissimilar, is it, to what happened at Reading? But as I say, it feels like it's on an even deeper scale.
The problem here is that this has been going on for a while, and you can sort of see it coming. I mean, the very fact that they got rid of Darren Moore just after he'd taken them back into the Championship sort of highlighted the rather combustible nature of the owner and the way that he behaves. And he's always had this sort of attitude of a bit like, well, it's my club, I own it, and if you don't like it, that's tough. That's just the way it is. And I think that has really disrespected the traditions of Sheffield Wednesday. And I know that a lot of the supporters in that club feel disillusioned and have done for a very long time, and then were sort of swept up in what happened with Danny Roll and how well he did once he came in to the club to keep them in the Championship. And then everyone was hoping that maybe they could have had a promotion campaign this season. But it is such a difficult environment in which to work, Troy, that in the end, the benefit here is to no one. There's no way that Chancerai is going to get what he wants for the club. There's no way that the players that he holds on to are going to be sold for a value in which he's going to make his money back. And in the meantime, all that happens is the supporters just getting run into the ground and demoralised by what is a terrible experience. I mean, ultimately, the players will probably get their money, and the best ones will go and get a move somewhere else, and it won't be their problem anymore. But what's left is the shell of the football club, and that's what's dispiriting.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. The players will always get their money. That's what the PFA is set up for, and obviously Maheta does a wonderful job making sure that it's all looked after from our rights point of view. For me, though, Sam, this raises a much bigger question about the fit and proper test that we keep putting in place, because we keep going into this, and the EFL have got to do some stronger legislation. And I wish Simon Jordan was here to ask these questions, because it just feels to me that when these owners have had enough of pumping their money in, they don't go, right, that's a business, cut my loss, let's move it on to somebody else. They absolutely strip it. They take the soul from it, and the only people left struggling is the paying customer. And it just seems to me that the EFL, as you said, we can see it coming. Can they get involved a bit earlier and fix it? And now you're putting Sheffield Wednesday in a much worse position by saying, right, the next 3 transfer windows, you can't do anything. That doesn't help, the product of the EFL. It gets them worse. It makes their financial crisis get worse. And then we get to Reading, and now we're getting to this desperate crisis all the time. Surely there's got to be an intervention before that.
Well, I was actually with the guy setting up the independent football regulator just a couple of weeks ago, and that is eventually, once the legislation is passed through Parliament, going to aid in these situations. It's not going to change everything. It's not going to alter the entire landscape. But the idea of strengthening and making that more robust, not necessarily just about the funds that are available to buy a football club, but one to sustain a football club. That's the key thing. And of course, the PSR sort of mechanism as well. That's got to be addressed, because there are some owners that come in, want to put money in, are penalised for doing so, and then get very humpy about it, a bit like the owner down at Reading, and then throw their toys out the pram and decide that they don't want to get involved anymore because it wasn't the landscape that they were promised. But either way, it's Sheffield Wednesday that are suffering at the moment, and that their fans just want a resolution to this problem so that they can at least embark on the season with a little bit of hope. Right, that was a roundup of the football top business stories with Tesco Mobile for Business.
Business briefing on talkSPORT with Tesco Mobile for Business. Got a side hustle? Get business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big mobile networks. For terms and verification, visit tescomobile.com/business.
I'm talking Jared Branthwaite in just a few moments on talkSPORT with Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Troy Deeney. And Selco Builders Warehouse, it's where the trade go.
number 20 shirt will be immortalised, say Liverpool, as the tributes continue to flood in memory of Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva. Liverpool reporter for the Daily Mail, Dom King, says it's a tremendous loss for the club.
The outpouring of grief is incredible, and it just gives you an idea of how loved he was universally. He was a superstar person, and he was the type of player and character that if you're going to be successful as a team, you need him.
The funeral wake set to take place this afternoon before a mass on Saturday in the town where less than 2 weeks ago Jota got married. Andy Robertson says Jota was a man bursting with love, writing, "I can't believe we're saying goodbye. It's too soon and it hurts so much. But thank you for being in my life, mate, and for making it better." It's not just his teammates he built a strong relationship with, it was the fans too. They're still turning up in huge numbers to lay flowers, scarves and letters to their number 20. Former Liverpool striker Neil Mellor said the strength of feeling between Jota and the fans was clear to see.
I think he had a great connection with the fans as well. You know, the bond he had a really popular song that the fans absolutely love singing, and you know, no doubt that's going to take a new meaning to it for next season. You know, I think it'll be a lot more emotional to hear the words sang, but he was really well liked, and the fans liked that work ethic, the fact that he worked so hard.
Sam Matterface alongside Alex Crook, and we're here with Troy Deeney as well, and it's time now to catch up with the latest odds, all thanks to BetMGM.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+gambleaware.org.
And I'm delighted to say that Dan Towles from BetMGM is with us to look ahead at today's top sporting events and discuss the latest odds. Hi, Dan.
Good morning, Sam. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Nice to see you. England, India at Edgbaston. Not been the greatest start to day 3.
No, it hasn't. Going into this, of the 8 tests played at Edgbaston, India had lost 7 and drawn just 1, and that was in 1986. England were odds on, so on paper it looked fairly straightforward, but India, who were in commanding position, haven't scored, 587 in their first innings. England was 77 for 3 going into today's play, and they lost 2 very, very quick wickets. You would have thought that Joe Root and Harry Brook would have had to bat out for a large portion of the day to give us a chance, but as you said, lost 2 quick wickets and are now out to 10-1 to win the match. India now 1-4.
What's the draw?
9-2.
Interesting.
The weather does.
Yeah, Club World Cup is on the way tonight. The first of the quarterfinals sees Palmeiras against Chelsea. Do we have new favourites?
No, we don't. PSG are still favourites, but just quickly talking about the quarterfinals, we've got Al Hilal in action tonight, but the 3 big games are arguably coming up over the weekend. Chelsea fans, as you'll know, Sam, you have to be up early to catch the Palmeiras game.
Or late, depending on how you see it.
Yeah, depending on how you see it. Brazil inside, unbeaten in the competition so far, but Chelsea will be their toughest test to date, and the market reflects that with Chelsea, the even money favourites. PSG v Bayern, both lost a game in the group stage, I think, and Bayern have won 4 competitive games in a row without conceding against the French side, which did include a 1-0 win back in November in the Champions League. But the French side are slightly different kettle of fish to that team that was in the back end of last year, and they're the favourites to progress. And then the final game is Real Madrid versus Dortmund, which is a repeat of the 2024 Champions League final, which Real won 2-0. Their odds on to win in the 90-minute market at 8-13. But I just wanted to circle back around from the Club World Cup to the Premier League. And Sam, if you remember last week we discussed with Scott Minto about Chelsea's domestic chances, and he felt a top 4 would be a success for them next season. You've already chatted through Chelsea signings over the summer, and when you compare that to the likes of Man City and Liverpool, have also done quite a bit of business and been fairly active. Then there's Arsenal. Their title odds are still around the 5-2 mark. They're 1-5 to make the top 4. Chelsea are 18-1 to win the league and 7-4 to finish in the top 4. Given their lack of activity and on paper a tricky start to the season, Arsenal at 5-2 doesn't present a lot of value for me, and 18-1 does appear a little bit of value for Chelsea.
Yeah, they're not going to win the title next year. They're not ready for that yet. Still defensively, they've got some work to do. And you know, with all due respect to Robert Sanchez, I just think goalkeeper-wise, they'll need a much more of a sort of robust goalkeeper if they're going to win the league. But they've certainly added to their squad. If I can sort of just bring it back round to the Club World Cup, Crookmeister is an expert now on the Club World Cup, and he's written blogs about it. He's been tipping. He's been coming up with lots of different possibilities of where the value is. And I just wondered actually whether or not he agrees with the way that the market's been priced up, because he was pretty certain it was going to be an all European semi-final lineup, which of course I don't think now can happen, Dan.
ChatGPT is always wrong, lad. You know that. You know that, right?
I've still got Sergio Guirassy, Golden Boot winner, 1 goal behind at the moment. That was my each way shout, so I've still got one live contender.
So out of the 12 bets that you had, you've got 1 live contender. Well done.
Well, how Dan can attest to this. This is basically what happened at Ascot, isn't it, Dan?
It is very, very similar, Troy. And then you left after you had a big winner.
Well, you know, that's kind of what I do. Get in, get out, mate.
It's nice Dan speaking to me, actually, because I've invited him to come to Brighton races on Tuesday. He lives literally round the corner.
Yeah.
You can see it out of his back window. He's turned me down because he's babysitting.
Yeah, I've got
good man. Family first. I'm here for it, Dan. Good lad.
It's not babysitting if you're looking after your own children.
No, exactly.
Sam, stop it. We've all got kids. Yes, it is. Yes, it is babysitting.
I can't make Tuesday, Crookie, because I'm still going through all your Facebook pictures of your holiday. I'm halfway.
Seriously, I did say to him, Dan, last week, if he sends me another half-naked picture of himself with some sort of picture of beer, then he's getting blocked.
It's ridiculous. It's getting a bit weird. And then I had another friend request on Facebook that I had to check with Joe, the producer. A certain Mrs. Crook turned up on my Facebook requesting to be my friend.
Wow.
Oh.
So I accepted that, Alex, and then wished her a happy birthday.
There you go. She was very grateful for that.
I'm leaving that conveation right there.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Talking of being half naked, Sam, thanks for doing that top button up as well, mate. Appreciate it.
I haven't. I've just repositioned the lead. British Grand Prix at Silverstone might get us hot under the collar as well this weekend, Dan.
Yeah, just very quickly, race 12 of the calendar. The Brits are actually the most represented country on the grid with 4 drivers. McLaren's Lando Norris is a joint favourite with current championship leader Oscar Piastri at 33-20. Both have had 9 podium finishes this year, but it's Piastri that has a better win ratio. Hence, he's the one to catch at the top of the leaderboard. But there is a slight chance, and a very slight chance, we might see a little bit of rain coming in, and that would help a certain Mr. Lewis Hamilton, who is yet to get a podium this year, but we know he goes around. He's won it 9 times, and the rain would be a big benefit to him. So 16-1 to win the race, and a 5-2 for a finish in the top 3 could tempt a few people.
Troy, you're into F1, or is it another event that someone pays you to go to?
Yeah, I definitely get paid to go, and I watch it, unlike you. Anyway, so Ferrari have obviously got an upgrade last week as well, started to look a little bit better. So you think that there's more value with Ferrari now with that, Dan? Because clearly you are a massive F1 fan as well.
Oh, you know me, Troy. Yeah, watch F1 religiously. But yeah, look, all I know about F1 is he hasn't got a podium this year, which is unlikely. For Lewis Hamilton, we know how well he goes in the rain. 6-1 at his home track. It could be the first time he gets on the podium this season. I think
it's a little outside bet. I would put a few quid on him to finish in the podium just because they had an upgrade last week. Much better finish for him in the race as well, him and Charles Leclerc. And also, I think just have a little look at George Russell as well. A lot going on with the contract negotiations. And there you go, Sam. That's what happens when you look at more than one sport.
Listen, I haven't got time to look at more than one sport. You know, if I do have time, it'll be cricket, and if I'm really lucky, I might get to watch a couple of the Lions games as well. But the football is all consuming. And by the way, Crookie, James Fielden says your stat pack for PSG Bayern is on the way. Right, that was a look at the latest odds. All thanks to BetMGM. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+, begambleaway.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Going to talk Anthony Elanga going to Newcastle, the prospect of that in just a few moments. And we're also going to talk about Jared Branthwaite. That's coming up very shortly here on talkSPORT with Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Troy Deeney with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
Very well now. It's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
Hello, This is talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface with Alex Crook and Troy Deeney. That live football continues overnight with Chelsea's game against Palmeiras. 2 a.m. kickoff English time tomorrow. The Lionesses play their first game of the tournament at the European Championships of 2025. They take on France live on talkSPORT. 8 o'clock kickoff tomorrow. Two big sporting events already taking place today. Let's start off at Edgbaston and find out how England have reacted to losing those 2 early wickets. Here's Sam Ellard.
They reacted well. They're 129 for 5. The 6-wicket partnership is worth 45 runs. England resuming 78 for 3 and lost 2 wickets in 2 balls in the second over of the day. Root going for 22. A tickle down the leg side off Siraj offered an easy chance for Rishabh Pant. Then the very next ball, Siraj to soak. A really, really good bouncer. Stokes tried to get his hands out the way, but it took the glove through to Rishabh Pant. 2 wickets in 2 balls. But this partnership is worth 45 runs. Harry Brook has just passed 50 from 73 balls. Hasn't looked as comfortable as we're often seeing from Harry Brook. He offered a chance to Krishna before he got to 50, looking to cut a wide ball, thick outside edge, went through the slips to the boundary. Only 1 slip in place for India is absolutely crazy. How you can have a team trailing by over 450 runs and have 1 slip in is absolutely crazy. Brook got away with that. He's moved to 50. Jamie Smith has 25 runs to his name. He looks in decent touch. 25 from 25. Seen a couple of glorious drives through the offside. So this partnership, an important one for England. It's worth 45 runs. Brook has 50. Smith has 25. England looking to rebuild at 129 for 5. Still trailing though by 458 runs.
It'd be fascinating to see how that test match pans out, having such a huge lead. India, what about at Wimbledon? We're getting towards the end of the first week. Lisa O'Sullivan is keeping her eye across everything.
Yeah, Emma Raducanu, Sonny Cartel and Cam Norrie, the last remaining British players in the singles, play for a place in the 4th round this afternoon. But play is already underway on a pleasantly warm morning at the All England Club. Naomi Osaka's just taken the first set against Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, 6-3. And Amanda Anisimova, one to watch in this draw, the number 13 seed from the USA, has taken the first set against Dalma Galfi, 6-3 in their women's match.
Cheers, Lisa. Appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about Jarrad Branthwaite, who signed a new 5-year contract at Everton, and he's been speaking to Everton TV about doing just that.
You know, to get it over the line and to sign, it's something I'm really excited about. Obviously, the new stadium as well, which was a big impact in the decision, and the new owners, the manager. So yeah, I'm over the moon with it. The last 2 seasons have had a massive impact. I've played, so many games over the 2 seasons, and for me as a player, it's about playing as many games as I can. With the club, I feel loved by the fans and the players, the group we've got. It's a good group. And obviously with the new ownership and the new manager coming in, it's an exciting project, and it's something that I want to be part of.
This is an excellent coup for Everton, because just last year everybody thought that they were going to sell him. In fact, they sort of almost admitted that they would need to sell an asset because the financial situation and the ownership situation was so dire. But it just shows you how quickly things can change, and this is the sort of revitalisation, or part of the revitalisation of Everton, that the Daniel Friedkin group has bought in. New manager, new stadium, new contract for Jarrad Branthwaite. This is a big moment for Everton, I think, Troy Deeney.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think it's a statement of intent. Obviously, going into that new stadium, as you alluded to, they've got David Moyes there, tried and tested. You know what you're going to get, a very popular figure up in those parts. New stadium to move into, and then you got your best and brightest talent that Man United were looking at, obviously, last year. I think it's huge for Everton, pointing in the right direction now. It's really interesting to see who they bring in and what type of player they could get and allure into Everton Football Club. I think beforehand it was based on, the tradition of what Goodison Park is, what the fan base are. Now I think they're in this space of they're trying to change the narrative of bringing Everton into the new age, especially with this new stadium. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what David Moyes does from a transfer policy point of view.
Great for Everton. He's 23 years of age. He's played 75 Premier League games. They're under his belt. He's had 2 good seasons. He had a good season in Holland as well. He's had a handful of games in the Championship. He's a robust defender. He did have groin surgery at the beginning of last season. That ruled him out for a little bit. But, when you go back to last summer, he was being talked about as someone that Manchester United and others were interested in. And does it just actually prove, Crook, that sometimes when you're trying to be a little bit too cute about waiting for the price to be right, you can miss an opportunity? Because had Manchester United have struck last summer, they probably would have got a deal done for Jared Branthwaite. Whereas because of the new ownership, because of the new outlook, because of the looming new stadium, all of that now has changed.
Yeah, although I have to say, speaking of sources at Manchester United this summer, when you talk about priority positions, centre-back isn't necessarily one of them.
It was last year.
It was last year, but then a Euro came in.
That's what we're talking about.
And I think has shown in flashes that he has a bright future. I think Aidan Heaven has made a really positive impact since he arrived from Arsenal. And again, I think he is going to be someone we're going to be talking about for years to come. So I think when United looked at their options this summer, they thought, you know what, we don't need to go and break the bank for Jared Branthwaite. We're pretty strong in those areas. Clearly, we need a couple of number 10s. Cunha is through the door. Maybe Mbeumo, hopefully from United's perspective, will follow. They need a number 9. They're looking at the goalkeeper department, maybe another more athletic midfielder. So I don't think they were going to go back for Jared Branthwaite this summer. So maybe, rather than a missed opportunity, we'll just see last year as a sliding doors moment for both.
Sam, as well, do you think that this was one, if they would have got that done, it would have moved the needle for Man United with Branthwaite?
Last year?
Yeah. Like, do you think would have been they would have? Do you think they would have had the season they had if they had Branthwaite in? That's probably the question I should have asked.
It's a great question, because I suppose what you're asking us to do is to go back and look over the course of the season and say, would that have changed? Well, maybe a couple of games might have been different. Obviously, he missed the first 3 months of the season because he had a groin injury, so you have to factor that in as well. Manchester United's, I suppose, biggest priority last season was to have got more goals. They didn't do that. They've now tried to address that this season. But it's all a little bit of hindsight. I think what it does do is it gives Everton a real solid platform, because I think it's very difficult to replace a player like Jared Branthwaite. Yeah. It's even harder when you've got a game and a sort of tactical structure that David Moyes has got, which is very much based on making sure you're secure first and then you're building from there. They also need goals. They also need a little bit more flair going forward. But what they don't want to do is disrupt that solid base. So going into that new stadium with the vibrant atmosphere, which is bound to occur at Bramley Moore Dock, and to have him there as a possible, I think, long-term captain of the club going forward, I think is a massive boom for them going into the start of the season. I want to ask Crookie about Anthony Elanga. What's happening with him? Because Newcastle, I've heard, are optimistic about striking a deal for him. Is that still the case as you understand it?
Yeah, they put a new offer in yesterday, £55 million. I think they're just working on the add-ons. Forest have looked at what Matheus Cunha has gone for. They're looking at what Brentford are asking for Brian and Mbeumo, and I think they want a similar package. So I think Newcastle eventually will have to pay in excess of £60 million. The player is keen on the move. This was one that nearly happened right at the end of the winter transfer window. We broke this story exclusively on deadline day that Newcastle were trying to sign Anthony Elanga. I think it was just too late by that point. Forest obviously were competing for a Champions League place and going well in the Cups at that time as well, so they weren't prepared to let him go. Manchester United get 20% of any fee above what Forest paid them, so I think they stand to pocket about £8 million from this deal. But I think for Newcastle, they've missed out on Dean Howson. Difficult, because he, I think, always had his heart set on Real Madrid. They're going to miss out on Brian and Mbeumo. James Trafford may well happen, but those negotiations are dragging on. And I feel that having achieved Champions League qualification, they need to be seen to be doing business. And I think this is why they're so determined to get Anthony Elanga. And he's a player that Eddie Howe has admired for a long time.
Not only that, he's an international teammate of Alexander Isak. They obviously are both Swedes, and it's a great opportunity for him as a forward to have that extra weapon. They've got brilliant options down the left-hand side. They've got speed now and power and creativity on the right-hand side, which can create even more chances for someone who scored so many goals last week. We might get Troy to sort of talk about those relationships in the next few minutes. We also want to talk about the England under-21s and whether or not that age group success can ever really translate straight to senior tournament success as well. You're listening to talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
The number 20 shirt will be immortalised, say Liverpool, as the tributes continue to flood in memory of Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva. Liverpool reporter for the Daily Mail, Dom King, says it's a tremendous loss for the club.
The outpouring of grief is incredible, and it just gives you an idea of how loved he was universally. Fans, you know, I've been trying to explain to some people who are not familiar with it, and he was never the superstar, but he was a superstar person, and he was the type of player and character that if you're going to be successful as a team, you need him.
The funeral wake set to take place this afternoon before a mass on Saturday in the town where less than 2 weeks ago Jota got married. Andy Robertson says Jota was a man bursting with love, writing, "I can't believe we're saying goodbye. It's too soon and it hurts so much, but thank you for being in my life, mate, and for making it better." It's not just his teammates he built a strong relationship with, it was the fans too. They're still turning up in huge numbers to lay flowers, scarves and letters to their number 20. Former Liverpool striker Neil Mellor said the strength of feeling between Jota and the fans was clear to see.
I think he had a great connection with the fans as well. You know, the bond he had a really popular song that the fans absolutely love singing, and you know, no doubt that's going to take a new meaning to it for next season. You know, I think it'll be a lot more emotional to hear the words sang, but he was really well liked, and the fans liked that work ethic, the fact that he worked so hard.
You can read all the tributes pouring in for Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva on our live blog at talksport.com. Heading over to the Lions tour down under now, and there's been a mixed reaction to head coach Andy Farrell calling up his son Owen to replace the injured Elliot Daly. But despite not playing Test rugby in 2 years, former Scotland international and his old Saracens teammate Jim Hamilton told us it's a no-brainer to call Faz back up.
It's been a tough, humbling 12, 18 months for Owen, and from a kind of personal point of view, but also like a fan's point of view of the Lions, you've got a proven performer, you've got a warrior, and you've got a guy that's really hungry, and he's a quality operator, as we know.
Very good afternoon to you. It's Sam Matterface with Alex Crook and Troy Deeney. Today I'm live in Switzerland ahead of Germany-Poland tonight. I'm doing that game tonight. Also going to Wales against Holland in Lucerne tomorrow at the European Championship, the Women's European Championship. We've got live commentary tomorrow night of England against France. And ahead of that opener, the Lionesses is doing an open training session today. And we're going to join our reporter, Courtney Sweetman-Kirk, in around about 15 minutes time and discuss latest injury issues and whether or not everyone's fit ahead of the first game of the tournament. We're going to talk Wimbledon's carnage later with Marcus Buckland as well, after a huge number of seeds went out in the first 2 rounds. But Troy, I just wanted to go back to you on the discussion about Isak and Elanga, because when you've got someone who you sort of know and you've got a relationship with going forward, I haven't seen enough of Sweden to suggest that those two are particularly well connected, but I can imagine that the type of player that Elanga is and the type of player that Isak is, that those two are going to work together quite well. And the balance of that attack was needed, wasn't it, bearing in mind that they have such a wealth of talent on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, the options are just Jacob Murphy. They needed an upgrade, not necessarily in terms of talent, but in terms of the number of personnel that can play down that side. Yeah, and I think to be totally fair to Murphy as well, he's punched well above his weight, hasn't he? If we're being totally honest, he's been exceptional for Newcastle, but you do need that balance. Also, when Anthony Gordon's out, that lightning pace, they're a bit short of that as well. So I think Elanga coming in is a perfect fit for Sweden. I saw a little bit, because obviously we used to have Ken Sema as well, Watford plays, so I always keep an eye on what the lads are doing. I just think when you have that connection, it's great. I still think that Newcastle need a second striker now to back up if Isak is out. Bit disappointed, obviously, that they missed out on Joao Pedro. Liam Delap seemed to have turned his nose up at it as well. So they'll have to go and get somebody. But I think as a fit for Newcastle now, when you start looking at what Eddie Howe's doing, you can see deliberate moves now. They want to go and get 3 or 4 players that are deliberately fit into the system that's already in place and people know what they're doing.
Yeah, couple of takeaways from that. I mean, Murphy's an interesting one because I think you're right. He played a massive part in their success towards the back end of last season. When Forest and Newcastle were talking about a potential deal for Elanga late in the winter window, my understanding is that Forest actually wanted to take Murphy in part exchange, because obviously it's a big void for them to fill. Eddie Howe put the stops on that because he is such a fan of Murphy. So interesting to see how that dynamic works now. But what do Forest do moving forward? I mean, I know they're excited about the striker, Igor, they got coming in from Botafogo. I think they're signing a defender, Cunha, from the same club as well. But they're going to want to make sure that last season wasn't a one-off and that they can sustain a European challenge again.
Yeah, for Forest, they'll do that. Again, sorry to just jump back. I just think with Newcastle, they can't afford to let Murphy go, because now you're seeing it just how difficult it is for clubs to play 3 games in a week, especially with European competition as well. I think there's going to be certain games where that Elanga and Gordon have to start on the bench, and they're probably going to look at it and go, if we've got Murphy and Harvey Barnes, that's a very good backup's the wrong word, but a very good second in those positions. Looking at the midfield, when they lost either one of those 3, when that 3 is fit, Tonali, Joe Linton and Bruno, it's fantastic. When they lose one, it just doesn't work. So they need to try and find another one as well. So again, obviously got Willock in there as well, isn't he, Sam? Good player, but it just doesn't work the same as when those 3 play. So
I think Willock might go.
Yeah, it's going to be really
interesting. There's a sort of symbiotic relationship between those 3, and the physicality of Joe Linton is so important in the middle of the park. The ability for Tonali to get up and back, he's been brilliant as he's playing in that slightly deeper role. But Guimaraes is the one that knits it all together. The balance between those 3 has been almost perfect over the course of the season. And do you know what you were talking about Murphy, and it sort of sparked my mind. It just sort of identifies and illustrates once again just how good a coach Eddie Howe is. The fact that this is a player who was probably hit and miss in Murphy's case over the course of the last couple of years, but has been coached, spent time with, developed and enhanced by the coaching of Eddie Howe and his team. And I think if you're Anthony Elanga, I think you'd probably accept that Elanga has got a lot of potential, but hasn't necessarily ever really fulfilled that entirely. And there's an opportunity for him to go through a similar sort of process. And I think he would have looked at Eddie Howe and thought, this is someone who can kick me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole team will work towards making the players better. But I think it's also on the player to be coachable. You know, you can have all these ideas and all these different concepts of football, but if you're not willing to take in the information and learn on a day-to-day basis, then, you know, it's got to fall on deaf ears fundamentally. And I think that's what Murphy's done. Again, I don't think he would take this as a negative, but he would say people looked at him as just a pure speed merchant at one point. Now he's got a little bit more cuter in his game. He understands where to be when the ball's on the opposite side of the pitch. And I think, you know, that he's down to Eddie and his team.
Let's talk a little bit about one player who was in that midfield for Newcastle, or could have had the potential to be in there, was Elliot Anderson. They sold him to Nottingham Forest. He was a big part of the England under-21 team that won the European Championships in Slovakia not so long ago. And it was fascinating, wasn't it, watching them beat Germany 3-2, come through a game against Spain, play well, get over the line, win back-to-back European Championships, and therefore be a team that have defended a youth title. But how does that translate? How do you go from there to the next stage, which is the seniors winning the World Cup or the European Championships? Because I did, as you can imagine, boys, because I am the saddest person that you two know. I did do a little bit of research about, like, you know, the previous sort of winners of these tournaments and what happens next. And there is no direct correlation between winning at youth level and then winning at senior level. But I tell you what, there are quite a few examples of it happening. And I think, you know, Crook, you spent time with the England under-21s last time around, didn't you? And the way that some of those players have developed just by winning that title has been quite amazing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you'll obviously have the numbers in front of you. I can't remember off the top of my head how many of that previous under-21 winning side have gone on and really cemented themselves in the England senior squad. But I look at this squad now, I think for me, the one who has to be on the plane next summer and probably should have been part of the senior squad this summer but opted to play for the under-21s is Tino Livramento. I think when you look at Reece James and the role that maybe Thomas Tuchel sees for him, is he a right back anymore? Is he fitness-wise? Can he be relied upon to go through a whole summer in those conditions? Potentially not. Kieran Trippier obviously is not getting any younger. We'll see what Thomas Tuchel wants to do with Trent Alexander-Arnold. Will he see him as an out-and-out right back or a wing back or someone who comes into midfield? But I think Livramento can play on either flank, and I think he's had a brilliant season for Newcastle. Harvey Elliott, obviously player of the tournament, scored a lot of goals. I think he'll get a big money move this summer. Will he be in the squad in a year's time? I'm not sure.
Elliot Anderson, somebody else that I think probably deserves a little bit of discussion because he played well, and England need a sort of robust midfield player. James McAtee, you know, a lot of these players actually have got to think about their futures and how they end up progressing from the under-21s. But we saw it last time with Cole Palmer. You know, he had to make that move very quickly after the under-21s to go into a different environment in order to elevate his career next. And sometimes a move is good for you in that regard, Troy.
Yeah, I think so. And just on Elliot Anderson, I've said it for a few weeks now. When you look at the Thomas Tuchel friendlies and the 3 games that we had so far, you haven't been able to see. My frustration, Sam, is we know what Kyle Walker brings. We know what Jordan Henderson brings. We know what Harry Kane brings. We haven't now been able to see what does Elliot Anderson bring in those situations.
Yeah, but there was a reason for that, right? Because they had a conversation. Livramento, Anderson is an example of this.
I'm talking to FA, Sam. Sorry.
These guys had to go to the Under-21 Championships. They're preparing for a tournament.
Is that tournament bigger than the World Cup?
Well, this was a game against Andorra and Senegal, and they decided that it was better to get tournament experience. And actually, especially with Livramento, Thomas Tuchel said to him, I want you to go there and show that you've got the leadership qualities to deal with a big tournament and big games. And he delivered in spades. Yeah,
look, again, you can have all of that chat. We've now... Let's just change the same conversation in a different way then. So we've got Harry Kane played in all those games, right? Do we know if Solanke is any better for England? Do we know if Ivan Toney is any better playing for England after those 3 games?
No.
And that's my point. So we now have like the Elliot Andersons, and yes, he went to the 21s. Yes, they won. Great. But you don't know now, is he ready to be in that World Cup squad? We don't know. until, unfortunately for these young men, that moment happens and they're in, and then you've just got to go and deal with it. I just think they would have learnt so much more being in and around those lads and those environments. And we've seen, and again, got to be really careful because you know I'm a big fan of Lee Carsley. We've seen what he can do as a coach, again, back-to-back wins down at the 21s level. But how does that translate when he went into the big job at England? It's so much different, as you know.
It is.
Media scrutiny and all of these different things. And the only way you get experience of those things is by putting the people in there.
And when you go back and you look at France and the Under-20 World Cup winners that then went on and won the 2018 Senior World Cup, when you look at the Italy team that won the 92, 94, 96, 2000 Euros and then won the World Cup in 2006, when you look at the Brazil teams that won the 97, 99 Under-17 World Cup and then the Seniors World Cup, the number of players that go from one team to the other isn't huge.
No.
It's 3, it's 2, it's 4. It's a very small amount of players. But what it is that the very best of that crop, at their core, that winning mentality.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Because if they didn't take the best squad available and lost, everyone would be going, oh my God, we're not taking the 21 seriously. But I just think when we're a year removed now from a World Cup with a new manager, if we still had Gareth Southgate in charge and he's known and seen everything, I could make a little bit of an argument. Okay, I understand that he's seen everyone. A new manager in charge, we've gone a little bit older to create culture and environment. Totally understand that. I can wrap my head around that. But we haven't seen, if, touch wood, it doesn't happen, Harry Kane is injured, then what? What's plan B?
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, Liam Delap went to play at the Club World Cup. Instead, didn't even get the chance to play at a tournament. So
yeah, I understand it's Liam Delap, but the two that are there, and I know Ollie Watkins obviously got married in the summer, so congratulations to him as well. But you look at your Solankis, you look at your Ivan Tonys, you've taken them, and we haven't gained anything from it. And my only concern is these games, in my opinion, should have been used to look at things, to try things out, not try things out to the extent that Lee Carsley did before you jump in, Sam.
But you're talking about trying things out in 90 minutes of football. Well, actually, you know...
No, they're there for a week or so.
They've seen Ivan Toney training over the course of 10 days that they were out there and interact with people for 10 days whilst they were in Girona, because they spent a lot of time in Girona in Spain. And they decided that actually he only needed 3 minutes. They were only going to give him 3 minutes because obviously for whatever reason, they've decided that he's probably not going to be part of it.
Those two games that England played, obviously one was a qualifier, so you had to play it, and they were absolutely terrible in that game against Andorra. The Senegal game was an absolute waste of time. What did Thomas Tuchel learn from that Senegal game? What did you learn from playing Ivan Toney for 3 minutes?
I think you learned a lot from that Senegal game. I think you learned a lot from the Andorra game as well.
Waste of space for me, those two England games.
Well, they weren't a waste of space because one was a qualifier and you have to contractually... you've got to play football matches if you're the England manager. You've got to get the team together. But they didn't learn nothing. They learned stuff. They took stuff away thinking, hold on a second, I can rely on him, I can't rely on him. That's the kind of thing you take away from it. You learn even in defeat. Yeah, and I actually think you learn more in defeat than you do in wins, to be totally honest with you. But I just think when you just touched on something there with Ivan Toney, for example. But he did say, he's been doing well in Saudi, but he's never been and watched him. So, for example, like you're now saying, what can he learn in those 10 days worth of training when I think they went to the Spanish Grand Prix and things of that nature. If you're telling me now in those 10 days, what you think and what you see of a person is what's going to decide the World Cup, but you give him 3 minutes of the job he's actually going to be paid to do, I would argue that that's an unfair assessment of a player. Yeah, well, okay. So if he was here, he would probably say to you, one, I took them all to the Spanish Grand Prix on the first day they arrived, 6 days before the game. I then got them into camp because I wanted them all to be together early, and that was like a treat in order to sort of try the bonding thing. That was 6 days before. Yeah. They had 5 days at a luxury resort in Girona where they could also do some intense training. And during that period, he was sort of observing the personalities of the players. He's got a hard core of players he thinks is going to take to the World Cup, and he's thinking about who are the other ones I'm going to add on to it, knowing full well that those players that he then adds on to that 16 are probably going to be limited in their game time, but they're going to have to be great around the camp. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah,
of course. So he's obviously trying to build a squad that he feels can be not only tried and tested, but the best cheerleaders. And you are only as good as your worst link. So if somebody's a bad egg over that course of time,
not suggesting that he's a bad egg.
No, of course, no. I'm taking it just on what you said. I just think that when you look at it, it feels to me, and I want this to be on record. I hope I'm wrong. But it feels to me that we're going to have the same problems moving forward. It's going to be a lot of the same. We've already got our relatively started 11, maybe one or two. I think if we all put it down now, we won't be too dissimilar. We could probably name the bench, and we'll probably miss out by 2 or 3. And that is a bit of a shame, in my opinion.
Just to take this full circle, Sam, I've just had a look at the England team that won the Under-17 World Cup in 2017. 4 players, I think, have got a chance of being on the plane next summer. Gay, probably England's best centre-back when fully fit. Conor Gallagher, Morgan Gibbs-White. I think we can say the jury's out on when it comes to Thomas Tuchel, bearing in mind his reluctance to use him. And Phil Foden, who obviously has had a really disappointing year. So of those 4 that won the Under-17 World Cup in 2017, probably only Mark Gay, a guaranteed starter.
Yeah, interesting to see what happens with them. We'll talk about the England Lionesses. Well, we can't be positive a year out from a World Cup. What can we be? Well, anyway, we've got 24 hours before the Lionesses look to try and defend their European Championship title. And we're going to go to open training with Courtney Sweetman-Kirk, who's with the guys in Switzerland next.
Plays that villain role very well now. It's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
talkSPORT. Sam Matterface and Alex Crook with Troy Deeney. Let's go off to Wimbledon. Here's Lisa O'Sullivan.
Naomi Osaka looks to be pretty much in control against Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova in their third round match on court number 2. Pavlyuchenkova's just had a code violation for unsporting behaviour, so we'll find out a little more about that later. 6-3, 4-all is how that stands. And Amanda Anisimova, some people tipping her to go all the way here at Wimbledon, is 6-3, 3-4 up against Dalma Galfi of Hungary. We've got 3 Brits in action later today. First up will be Sonny Cartel against the French qualified Diane Parry, who has a very beautiful one-handed backhand.
And off to Edgbaston and the latest at the cricket. Here's Sam Allard.
England 178 for 5. They lost 2 wickets in 2 balls in the second over this morning to have them 84 for 5 and in real trouble. Over the last hour, though, the 6-wicket partnership is worth 94 runs inside 14 overs. So Smith and Brooke are scoring at just under 7 runs an over. JB Smith already has 50 to his name. He's 60 from 51 balls. We've seen an incredible passage of play where Pradesh Krishna is going with a short ball tactic to Jamie Smith, packing the fielders on the leg side. And over just before the drinks break, Smith took 23 runs from one Pradesh Krishna over, including 2 pull sixes over the leg side for 6. Harry Brook has got 63 runs to his name. He's settled down a little bit. He was a little bit fidgety this morning. There was a few player misses in the 40s. He looked to cut Krishna, thick outside edge, went through a vacant second slip along to the boundary. But despite when these two came to the crease together, trailing by 500 runs, there is still only one way these guys are going to play, and that's aggressive cricket. Smith's got 60, Brooks got 63. England 178 for 5, trailing by 409 runs.
OK, let's try and get to the Lionesses, who are doing open training, or have been doing open training. I think that's sort of come to an end pretty quickly. They're defending champions. They are going to Switzerland, aiming to defend their 2022 title. Spain, the reigning league holders, who are most people's favourite. Let's speak to Courtney Sweetman-Kirk, who is at the England training base for us. Hi, Courtney.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you very much for joining us this lunchtime. Big day tomorrow, England against France. How have they settled in to Switzerland as far as you understand it?
Yeah, I've had a couple of interactions, interviews with Esme Morgan, Chloe Kelly, been watching training, and they all look really calm, actually. I think the fact that I remember last time when they went out to Australia, it was quite a long time. They went out early to acclimatise, then the whole tournament for the World Cup, whereas this one obviously a little bit closer to home. They did the warm-up game, the last warm-up game in Leicester at the King Power, and then flew over. So I think everyone's really calm, everyone's chilled out. I think today's a little bit like Christmas Eve, isn't it? The start, just before the first game. So I think they're all excited, and a little bit later I'm going over to the press conference. I'll get to speak to Leah Williamson and Serena Wiegman.
Yeah, it was fascinating actually, because the first couple of days of the tournament, when we first got here, it was absolutely sweltering, and even yesterday, before the big storm that we had here in St Gallen, it was 30 degrees and it was sweltering. Just sitting down, you'd end up like perspiring. But that has sort of evened itself out with the storms that have come over the last 24 hours or so. Beth Mead was talking today in an interview, Courtney, and I thought it was really fascinating actually. She was sort of suggesting now we're being criticised just like the men's team. That was one of the headlines, and she said that's a good thing. Just explain to us why.
Yeah, of course it is. You want parity, and I think obviously what the girls understand is they're not. No, this isn't their first rodeo. They know that everything that comes with it in terms of, yes, the increased media coverage, the resources, the money that comes with it, yes, that's the positives, and you also get obviously the perceived negative in terms of that attention as well. So the girls don't shun that, and I think that's something that's very important. They see both sides of it. They understand that they're going to get both sides of it, and also they're coming to a point where they're defending their European Championship. There is so much attention on them, so I think they all well know that there's going to be the good and the bad that comes with it. And obviously we saw a little bit as well sort of before the tournament, didn't we, the players that aren't coming, the likes of Mary Earps and Millie Bright. But I think inside the camp it's a very happy camp.
There's massive pressure though, isn't there, right from the off on the Lionesses, because obviously they missed out on top spot in qualifying to France. No reigning champion has ever lost their first game of the next tournament, so if England set that unwanted record, there's a risk it gets them off on a negative footing right from the start.
Yeah, it is, and again, that potentially goes back to the media attention around it as well. And I think if they were to lose that game, obviously from my perspective, I hope they don't. But I think with inside the camp, it wouldn't be panic stations. Obviously, as we mentioned, outside, there might be some mention of that and the fact that it's a very unwanted record. But even if they were to go on and lose tomorrow, I don't think it's going to be panic stations in the camp. They've still got more than enough within the team, that strength and depth within the squad to think that they can get out of the group. But it's been said many times that the group of death, it's a really tough group, and I think in an ideal world you want to come out tomorrow flying on all cylinders, get that win, get that in the bank, and then it just makes makes your life rather a little bit easier going forward, and it settles the nerves a little bit.
Courts, Troy here. Just looking at the injuries that's going on, how unbalanced do you think that makes the squad currently? And then the second question for me is, these Lionesses made themselves national heroes, didn't they? We've got what they achieved last time out. Is the added pressure now more on expectation to deliver a win, like win the whole thing, or is it on their actual performance? Because it is a tough group, as you just said.
Yeah, it is a tough group in terms of the injuries, in terms of what's here. All the squad are out training, so obviously we know Lauren James has been struggling for fitness. There's been certain players, Georgia Stanway, Alex Greenwood, but every single player, the England media staff made a point of telling us every single player is out training. Obviously the fact that we've not got a couple of players, the likes of Millie Bright, obviously that's a different situation. Yeah, potentially unbalanced, in that centre half position, but actually when you think back to the World Cup, when we got to the final against Spain, we didn't have a Beth Mead and we didn't have a Leah Williamson because they were out with ACL injuries. So I think they always find a way. In terms of the performance in an ideal world, and it just as well as I do, Troy, you want to play well, you want to be pleasing on the eye, and you want to win games. That doesn't always happen though, and I think in a major tournament the thing that you need first of all is to get out of the group, and then you want to obviously win the thing, but obviously progress, win the quarter-final, win the semi, get to the final and win that. So I think if the girls go and win it again, it's a tremendous achievement, and no one's going to talk about how they did it and how they got there. They'll just talk about retaining that Euros.
Absolutely. Just very quickly, France in turmoil at the moment. Wendy Renard, their most recognisable player, Eugenie Lusomere, 94 goals in 200 caps out. Kenzia Dali, who we've seen in the WSL, all banished from the camp. What's going on, and how can that help England?
Yeah, who knows? It's a little bit odd, isn't it? But I think there's been a few quotes from the France manager, basically saying they're not having those type of personalities in the squad, which I think was sort of quite an interesting quote earlier on. And so for me, yes, there's a lot of noise around it, but equally you could say that there was a lot of noise around our squad before the Euros, and they seem great and settled. And the big thing about this French squad for me is that forward line, it's full of pace, power, skill, so they're still a force to be reckoned with. But from my perspective, and obviously from an England perspective, I think everyone's hoping that it has unsettled the camp a little bit, because France are a really good side, and as I mentioned earlier, if we can get off to a good win tomorrow, then that obviously only sets us on good stead going forward.
Yeah, it's a really sort of odd decision, maybe not an odd decision, but certainly an odd sort of way of revealing it as well. No one knew what was happening or why it was happening, but I think those players, some of them found out in the press conference which announced the squad. And bearing in mind Wendy Renard's been one of the most famous players for the last 10 years, that was a bit of a surprise. Leah Williamson, by the way, I think part of the press conference a little bit later on, we're going to hear from her later on in the day on talkSPORT, and of course we've got live commentary of England-France tomorrow, 8 o'clock. You're listening to talkSPORT with Selco's Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
number 20 shirt will be immortalised, say Liverpool, as the tributes continue to flood in memory of Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva. Liverpool reporter for the Daily Mail, Dom King, says it's a tremendous loss for the club.
The outpouring of grief is incredible, and it just gives you an idea of how loved he was universally. He was a superstar person, and he was the type of player and character that if you're going to be successful as a team, you need him.
The funeral wake set to take place this afternoon before a mass on Saturday in the town where less than 2 weeks ago Jota got married. Andy Robertson says Jota was a man bursting with love, writing, "I can't believe we're saying goodbye. It's too soon and it hurts so much, but thank you for being in my life, mate, and for making it better." It's not just his teammates he built a strong relationship with, it was the fans too. They're still turning up in huge numbers to lay flowers, scarves and letters to their number 20. Former Liverpool striker Neil Mellor said the strength of feeling between Jota and the fans was clear to see.
I think he had a great connection with the fans as well. You know, the bond he had a really popular song that the fans absolutely love singing, and you know, no doubt that's going to take a new meaning to it for next season. You know, I think it'll be a lot more emotional to hear the words sang, but he was really well liked, and the fans liked that work ethic, the fact that he worked so hard.
Me, FA Sam, the Manchester United press officer Alex Crook, and the man will go anywhere if you give him a few pop. Troy Deeney, we're here right the way through until 1 o'clock this afternoon. Good news is the wait is finally over as the reunion of the century starts tonight. We're giving you the chance to win a pair of Oasis tickets in Manchester, July 19th. Yes, you heard that right. Oasis Live 25 is sold out, but we are going to try and get you in. Alongside the tickets, we'll put you up in a hotel, put $5,000 in your back pocket, and completely tax-free as well. So listen up right now for everything you need to know and how to enter.
All right, Arcade, you have to be over 18 to enter in the UK, excluding Northern Ireland, for the chance to win a pair of tickets to the most electrifying rock and roll reunion of the century, a hotel stay and $5,000 spending money. Text the word Oasis to 83338 by Monday the 7th of July at 11 p.m. and you'll be entered into the draw to go supersonic this summer. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission, or post your name and number to Oasis Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester, CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of July.
This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's at talksport.com. Good luck, yeah? Sorted.
Delighted to say we're going to talk Wimbledon now with Marcus Buckland, experienced tennis broadcaster, talkSPORT host who joins us now. Hi, Marcus.
Good afternoon, Sam. How you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Look, I mean, it was a bad day for Jack Draper yesterday. Let's hear from him, because he said after his defeat yesterday to Marin Cilic that it was one of the toughest losses of his career.
Very frustrated, obviously really upset. Probably one of the toughest losses, I feel. I thought Cilic played an incredible match. From start to finish, didn't let up. And yeah, he deserved the win, you know, but it hurts a lot. I've been really disappointed with the way my game's been on the grass this year, in all honesty. You know, I know I wasn't feeling too great at Queen's. I kind of, you know, I don't know how I made the semis there and gave myself a chance of making the final, because yeah, it highlighted to me this year that, I really struggled on the grass, in all honesty. I felt great on the hard, I felt great on the clay. My game, I felt like there wasn't many holes, whereas as soon as I came onto the grass, I felt a big difference.
Marcus, we'll talk about Jack in particular in just a second, but a record 36 seeds have been eliminated in the first 2 rounds of the competition. Why the carnage?
It's extraordinary, isn't it? They just keep on falling by the wayside. I think there are 2 main reasons for it. One is simply that most players don't get enough of an opportunity to practice on grass before they come to Wimbledon. The season is very, very short anyway, so a lot of them are undercooked. I mean, having said that, 2 or 3 of the big names who actually won a title in one of the warm-up events on grass have gone out early. So I think maybe you can also put it down to the heat. First couple of days in particular, it was so hot. The court was very, very quick, or all the courts are very, very quick. The other thing I would simply say as well, Sam, is that the depth in both the men's and the women's game is so strong these days, but it is not necessarily a huge surprise, particularly on grass, to see so many upsets. I mean, that said, this many is very unusual.
Let's talk in particular then about Jack Draper, because it's not the first time that he hasn't delivered at Wimbledon. I think he's not reached the 3rd round in any of his 4 appearances at the All England Club. What's the reason for that, do you think?
Yeah, he was brutally honest, wasn't he, when he gave that reaction after his defeat to Marin Cilic last night. The bottom line, he said, is that he's not that accustomed to playing on grass. Let's also bear in mind he was playing a man who made the final here in 2017, who's been producing some really good form at some lower-level events in the build-up to Wimbledon. He may be 38 years of age now, Marin Cilic, but he won a Grand Slam title more than a decade ago now. He's vastly experienced. He's fit again. He hits the ball so hard, so fast, and so flat. And Jack just didn't seem to be able to deal with the velocity of that ball coming back at him time and time again. There may still be some after effects from the tonsillitis he was suffering at Queen's. As he said there, he was surprised he made it as far as the semi-finals. He's got 1 or 2 niggles. He's just got to work on his game, and he will. I mean, he is so determined. And I do think it's only a matter of time before he goes a lot deeper than the 2nd round here.
Hi, Marcus. Troy Deeney here. I just wanted to ask, just for the casual, right? So you talk about those transitions from hard to clay to into grass. What is that for the casual listener who doesn't quite understand what that is?
Well, in the old days, Troy, there was a much bigger difference between the 3 surfaces. But you look, for example, at clay, and you look at Rafael Nadal. He was the king of clay. He won 14 French Open titles. The way the ball kicked up on the clay, and in particular when he used to play against Roger Federer, he could get it to kick up high to his backhand, and that was a really effective weapon. So it's the speed of the court, it's the movement as well. A lot of the players are actually very uncomfortable on the grass. In fact, Naomi Osaka, who's playing at the moment, who has won slams around the world but never really done the business here, said that she slipped over years ago on grass, and that's always in the back of her mind. So there's all these little nuances, tactical little deviations that go from surface to surface. It's not as dramatic as it was in the old. I mean, back in the old days, there were some players, some Americans who never used to bother going on the clay court swing, and some South Americans and Spaniards who wouldn't come on the grass. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
But there are still some subtle differences.
Emma Raducanu, Marcus, back in action against Sabalenka this afternoon. She didn't have great hopes, Raducanu, that she'd go deep into the draw before the tournament started. What have you seen from her to suggest that maybe she was being a bit too pessimistic and can cause an upset this afternoon?
Yeah, well, absolutely, Greg. I mean, when that draw came out, you're thinking this couldn't be worse, because she had a fellow Brit, a 17-year-old in Mimi Zhu in the first round, and you're on a hiding to nothing there if you're Raducanu, because of course you're expected to win. If something goes wrong, you're never going to hear the end of it. She was very professional in that match. And then a couple of days ago against Marketa Vondrousova, who was the champion here 2 years ago, who won in Berlin, a warm-up event last weekend, and had some big wins en route to that victory. I mean, that looked tough, and she played brilliantly. I would say Vondrousova was way below the standards in that match that we became accustomed to when she won here a couple of years ago. But Raducanu was hitting the ball so crisply. She was anticipating everything. She was, producing some drop shots when she had to. Her serve can be a little bit questionable, but the stats were good on, Wednesday. So that was, a bit of a statement victory. Of course, it gets even harder today against Aryna Sabalenka, and Raducanu's recent form against the really big names, the likes of Iga Swiatek and Coco Gauff, has not been good. But if she can keep it tight, certainly in the first set, there's a little bit of a breeze at the moment. It is very warm. If you can get a little bit more breezy, if the crowd really gets behind Raducanu, which it should, and if Sabalenka gets a little flustered, if we head perhaps towards a first set tiebreak, then who knows? Because remember, she was guilty of 70 unforced errors in the French Open final against Coco Gauff. She was expected to win that. And although she is a red-hot favourite today, guys, lots of ifs and buts in my answer, I think Raducanu can make it a lot closer than many people are expecting.
That shot quality thing that you talked about, the stat, it was the average is 7, isn't it? It's like XG for tennis. The average is 7 over the course of a tournament, and Raducanu's forehand was rated at 8.5, which just showed just how much she was overperforming in that game against Ostapenko, and hopefully against Sabalenka later on today, she can produce the same sort of form. Troy, you want to talk about Dan Evans?
Yeah, obviously, Marcus, Dan Evans from Birmingham. He's had a tricky career, shall we say. Obviously beaten yesterday by Novak Djokovic. Do you think that's the last we'll see of Dan at Wimbledon? And also, just quickly, what would you say on Dan's career? Because it has been up and down, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster at times.
Oh, it really has. I mean, he's 35 years of age now. He said afterwards he wasn't sure if this was going to be his last appearance at Wimbledon. I've got to say, I am a massive Dan Evans fan. He is not your typical tennis player, and he's made mistakes. He's the first person, Troy, to admit that.
Of course.
The early part of his career saw him, well, being less than professional at times. Then he had the ban as well. And to be fair, since he's come back from that, he's been absolutely magnificent. I think in some ways, all the issues that he had earlier on have helped him now fully appreciate what he's got, and he's trying to wring out every last drop of his career that he can. And he's such a delightful player to watch. That slice backhand, the ability to upset the biggest names. He had beaten Novak Djokovic before. Unfortunately, yesterday, once he was broken, Novak had all sorts of opportunities to break him in the first set, and once he got the first break, it was game over. There was a bit of a gulf in class. I sincerely hope it's not his last Wimbledon. I think it probably is, because his ranking is now going in the wrong direction, and it's going to get harder and harder to get into these big sorts of events. But I think when he does hang up his rackets, he can be really proud of what he did, certainly in sort of the third part of his career, as it was.
We're all very big fans of Dan Evans on this programme. It certainly fit in with us, especially the early part of his career, although he learned his lessons and we maybe still haven't. Anyway, Marcus, thank you very much for bringing a bit of professionalism to the equation. We appreciate that. That's Marcus Buckland giving us an update on the Wimbledon finals, not finals, the Wimbledon, the first week of Wimbledon, which has been absolute carnage if you are a seed. You're listening to talkSPORT with Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Troy Deeney. We're here right the way through till 1 o'clock this afternoon with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
plays that villain role very well now. That's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
Sam Matterface and talkSPORT's Alex Crook with Troy Deeney today. Let's get off to Wimbledon and let's have a find out what's happening on centre court and beyond for the rest of the day with Lisa O'Sullivan.
Yeah, let's talk about number one court, because having made her way into the top 50 this season and made the fourth round at Indian Wells, Sonia Kartal's looking to book a place in the fourth round here for the first time. The British number 3 won her first WTA title last year. She's got plenty of confidence going against the French qualifier Diane Parry, a former world number 1 junior who got to the semi-finals of the girls event in 2019. They're on court at 1 o'clock. Meanwhile, the 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka is hoping for a break in the decider. They're 1 set all, but Osaka trails 3 games to 1.
And what's happening in the cricket, Sam Allard?
Yeah, quite remarkable morning session, even by England's Bazball standards. 84 for 5 in the second over of the day. England were in big trouble, losing 2 wickets and 2 balls. Root for 22 and then Stokes for a golden duck, both of the bowling of Siraj. But since then, the 6-wicket partnership between Smith and Brook, worth 147 runs in 22 overs. They've scored at over 6.5 runs an over. Jamie Smith played quite beautifully at 7. He's 92 from 76. He's looked in glorious touch. They've tried the short ball tactic to him for a lot of his innings, but he's pulled anything short, hooked anything short. He's looked beautiful through the offside. He's played the spinners really well. Harry Brook is 83 not out. And yet India at the moment a little bit short of ideas on how to dismiss these 2 batsmen. So the partnership worth 147 runs, but England still trailing by 356 runs. We're 8 minutes away from lunch on day 3. England 231 for 5.
Thanks, Sam. After 7 years in the coaching setup with Tottenham Hotspur, Ryan Mason was appointed as the West Brom head coach on a 3-year deal at the beginning of the summer. This is him speaking at his first press conference this week.
Probably difficult to explain why. It's more just a feeling. I felt for a while that I've been ready. I've known that I've been ready, and I think more importantly, it was did an opportunity come up that I felt was right for the people that I was working with and the type of club, and this certainly felt right when I spoke to Andrew and the people involved. It felt right, so it's more a feeling, and it's one that I'm super excited about. Obviously we've already started. I'm enjoying it already, so we're looking forward.
We've got a little bit of news which is coming out of Manchester United, which we'll do in just a second. But first of all, before we get into that, Ryan Mason there speaking about his first job as a frontline manager. Is there a bigger learning curve in football than your first job as a manager? What's it like on that first day when you walk in?
No, I think for Ryan Mason, Keith Andrews and the like, it's a little bit different. They've been coaching for a long time. They've been in the buildings. They've seen managers come and go. They've took little details. Okay, what did this manager do? For Ryan Mason, for example, what did Ange Postecoglou do when he came in? Did that work? Did that not work? What did Conte do? He's been there. He's seen it all. So I think for these guys, a little bit different. In my instance, it was literally playing on a Tuesday. He was managing Wednesday. It's completely different. Didn't have that settling in period. But I do think by all accounts, a few people that I've spoke to at West Brom, he's doing really well. The players are on board. They're really appreciating the coaching, and he's a good coach. I think you won't know how difficult it is until he can't get the players he wants. He starts losing a few games, and players start... It's all new and rainbows, isn't it, at this moment in time? Start losing a few games, and a few of those players that he thought were decent will show their true feelings.
And this is not any way a sort of salty comment that Crook would be famous for. But with Ryan Mason, he has had experience of being in a dressing room that's lost quite a lot of games this season. So he will know what that's like when it comes to sort of dealing with players who are finding themselves in difficult situations. Because that was, they had a tough season, Tottenham, and he was very much in there observing that.
Yeah, and also we'll see from the manager what worked, what didn't, how to speak to the press, what didn't get them on side, all these different things. But I think also as well that the difference that it'll be for Ryan, for example, is he's not dealing with Premier League players. So you get a completely different ego and a completely different set of morals that will happen in the Championship. And obviously I've been there. But wish him all the best. By all accounts, as I say, he's doing well.
Yeah, good luck to him. He's a good guy. Ryan Mason, he's worked with us on talkSPORT on a few occasions. Someone else who's on the move, or hopes to be on the move, is Marcus Rashford. And with Nico Williams electing to stay elsewhere in Spain, Athletic Bilbao, does that then open up an opportunity for Marcus Rashford to try and take the place that he was touted for at Barcelona?
Well, I think it reignites his hopes of getting that move. I think he'd be a lucky boy to get it personally, but... we know that the hierarchy at Barcelona respect the fact he has the ability to play in various positions along the front line. Maybe that versatility could work in his favour. And I think ultimately Manchester United, despite putting a £40 million price tag on his head, know that they're going to have to send him out on loan. They're probably going to have to subsidise his wages. I think Barcelona will play it quite cutely. Obviously, we know Nico Williams won't happen now, so we'll keep a track on that. They return for pre-season on Monday, the bulk of the Manchester United squad. And Rashford's camp, his entourage, if you like, have been busy this lunchtime briefing that he's ready to return and going to give 100% commitment. I mean, there is a danger that you write a man goes to work headline here. I just think it's a really difficult situation for Ruben Amorim, who's obviously been so public in his criticism of Marcus Rashford. I don't see a situation where they repair that relationship. Will they even take him on the pre-season tour?
Again, we feel like we're doing the same stuff. When you have to do a PR stunt that he's going to come back and be 100% professional, that probably suggests that you've not been 100% professional before. When you have to say that, I think for Marcus, obviously, if he can get the move to Barcelona, that actually help Ruben Amorim because in the short term he's going to need to be fit, he's going to have to play by the rules, and he's going to have to buy in because at the moment there's a stigma attached to Marcus Rashford, rightly or wrongly, that he is this alter ego. You get him going, he does well, and then he falls off. You've got to keep on him all the time. When you go to Barcelona and Real Madrid, obviously you have to be on it all the time. So for Manchester United in the short term, I think it'll be good.
Excellent. Troy, thank you very much. Crook, are we going to have you going forward? Because I know that Manchester United are actually advertising for a new press officer. There's not going to be a late summer transfer.
In here.
You know that would be me stepping over to the dark side, and that would never happen.
Feels like you've taken a couple of steps in that direction over the last little while. Anyway, listen, thank you very much, Troy. Appreciate that. Crookmeister, speak to you soon. Next, it's H&J.